Good evening, folks. It is the 3rd of October, 2016, and this is Three Men in an Anime. Hooray!
Holy shit, it's October already?
Yeah, it's already October, Eric.
Yeah.
As
Only
always,
12 more Mondays till Christmas.
Fuck you.
Not even Halloween yet, man. Stop talking about Christmas.
Christmas does not get mentioned till after Thanksgiving here.
It doesn't exist here. Don't care by your rules.
How can you not have a holiday that's all about eating turkey and getting drunk?
We do. It's called Christmas.
Fair point. Anyways, as you guys can tell, I'm joined by my good friends and co-hosts, Eric Carlson and Sonic Gav Leaf. How you guys doing tonight?
I have beer, I have tobacco, I have Slayers.
I have a day off tomorrow, which is awesome.
Yay!
Hooray!
So, as Eric alluded to, we're going to be this week. We're covering my recommendation, which is the first season of Slayers, or The Slayers. I can
If
remember which
you
it is.
hadn't already guessed by the title of the show and the image on YouTube before you click the link. I'm in one of those moods today.
Just in case you hadn't noticed. Yeah. So, Slayers, we're now doing. This is another. Mecha has chosen a show that is even older than the last one he chose.
This is quite ancient, but it's old.
This is the oldest show we've covered, actually, which
Yes.
came out in 1992. And it kind of set the bar in a lot of ways for a lot of stuff, in my opinion. It's primarily, it is a high fantasy comedy series with an actual ongoing plot. So it's not like, just like a gag an episode thing or what have you. It's got actual story and character development and stuff.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, lots of stuff. And I chose it because I felt we needed something funny after Saikano.
I don't know what you mean. That was hilarious. End of the world.
Yeah, Gav totally out-misered me on the last one. I'm amazed.
Oh. So, yeah, I chose something funny. And, oh lordy, is it funny, actually. The Slayers is, we covered the first season. There's a lot of Slayers out there, but they're all sort of discrete seasons with their own story arcs. And there are several OVAs, which I wouldn't actually... They're not bad, but I don't highly recommend them. That said, the first season of Slayers is what we're covering. And
Yeah.
very quickly, early on, we'll as we often do, start talking about the characters because it's sort of the main thrust. Basically, it's in many ways a sort of a archetypical fantasy world, except there aren't a lot of non-humans. They exist. We don't see a lot of them, and most of the characters are technically human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least 30% human.
Yes.
It's one of those typical, it's typical sort of, high fantasy story where the time of gods and monsters has passed, and basically, humanity has crawled from its rat holes and is currently the ascendant species.
Pretty much. Yeah, there's backstory stuff, the gods and the Mazuku, which are the translation and the subtitle refers to as monsters, which is not entirely accurate. Mazuku more closely translates to demon.
They're greater demons for all intents and purposes.
Pretty much, yeah. There's a sort of a divide between what are, quote, demons and full-blown Mazuku. And then there are the sort of generic monsters that you run into, which are not technically Mazuku. That's why the subtitling, it's old and the translation is not perfect.
Yeah.
But it gets everything across.
Yeah, but you get the split between, you've got your full blown demons, and then you've also got you've got your werewolves, you've got your mummies, you've got your sorcerers, you've got there's all sorts of different stuff in here. It does kind of get yeah, it kind of gets all brought in under one catch-all group, really.
Yeah. Anyways, we are introduced at the very beginning, and it's one of my favorite cold openings to an anime, to be totally honest. is the opening is beautiful because it opens up in this bandit camp, and there are a bunch of bandits celebrating the fact they've got lots of money and everything's going well, and then a fireball descends the camp and explodes, and mass confusion, and they all look over and they see this sort of short, petite, red-headed girl standing there grinning like an evil maniac.
Well, she's mastered the slow motion fireball. It's like, that was the slowest explosion since the fucking spirit bomb.
Yeah.
He just descends. They're all like, huh?
Skaboom.
Then major boom. And thus we are introduced to the series' main protagonist, Lena Inverse. Lena is
all kinds of fun.
Oh, she's great. She is as the show starts, she's a 15-year-old girl with ridiculous quantities of magical talent.
She refers to herself as the sorcery genius, and she's probably not wrong. Just don't say that in front of her.
Yeah, no, she is. Lena is sort of. Lena is mercurial. She's a bit hot-tempered. A bit. She's hot-tempered.
Yeah.
She is genuinely very smart. She's pretty much the smartest person of the main characters we see. She's basically the smartest of the bunch.
Yeah.
Other characters kind of have moments over her, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one of the main four. There's one who rivals her in terms of brain power. Who we'll get to.
Yeah.
And so she shows up, and the bandits all are like, "Oh my God, is Lena Inverse the bandit killer?" Because one of the ways Lena goes around doing, paying for her travels and food and everything is by attacking bandit camps and robbing them blind. And blowing them to smithereens because
these aren't going to report stolen property.
Right. She's in many ways your classic sort of, and she's a classic adventurer from like a role-playing game.
That exactly it. She's your classic first-ed adventurer, in which case she goes up to the bandit camp, she blows it up, takes all the loot, moves on to the next bandit camp.
Yep.
This is one thing I noticed early on watching it, and I knew, and you guys had talked about it before, that, this has a D&D style D20, role-playing game built out of it. And I'll be honest with you. I know this is more of a later thoughts kind of thing. This show became easier for me, so to speak, to understand. Not to understand, but to rationalize once I thought of it as a group playing D&D.
Yeah, that's entirely that's not inaccurate. Yeah. So yeah, that's sort of where we're introduced to Lena. She blows away the camp, takes all their stuff, and leaves. And a bit later on, some survivors of the camp ambush her and want their stuff back, and she's like, "Really?" And the guy leading them has this wonderful conversation where he goes up to her and he's like, "We were coming to beat you up, but then I realized, I'm not sure you'd probably stomp our ass in a real fight." And she's like, "Yeah, you're not a complete idiot, are you?" And he's like, "Well, so how's this? How about you join us and take over as leader? It'd be great." And she's like, "Yeah, no. I may be bad in some ways, but no, I'm not I'm not going to stoop to banditry." And he's like, "Well, fine, get her, guys." And Lena's like, "Okay, well, I'll blow you all away." At which point we're introduced to the second major character, as we hear this voice shout up from just up the road that leave that poor girl alone, or I'll kick your asses. And we're introduced to this very tall, very Bishonen swordsman in blue armor with a great sword, who goes by the name of Gauri Gabriev. Gauri is, and he basically comes in basically starts spouting off fairly stock hero dialogue, and the bandits spout their sort of equally stock dialogue back, and causing Lena to basically facepalm. Battle of the cliche.
Why don't you give us your name? I'm not going to give you my name. You just get it dirty.
Really?
Oh.
So Lena's like, "Well, he's coming here to save me. I guess I'll play the damsel in distress." So she proceeds to not interfere in the fight, And Gowry curb stomps the bandits because he's that badass as a swordsman.
It's really not a good day to be a bandit.
No,
really bad day. And so Gowry sort of defeats it, and he turns around to sort of like see who he's get a better look at the girl he saved. And then he's struck sort of dumbfounded, and Lena immediately says, "Well, he's been dazzled by my beauty." Da 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 da. And he's like, "Ah, great, it's a kid." And she's like, "But I'm a little bit small for my age, and I'm just a little bit flat-chested." Wait, but what? Fine. He saved me. I'll be nice about it. Also, I really wish that my hearing wasn't as good because I can hear him muttering under his breath about all of this. And Gowry immediately turns around. He proceeds to be very nice about things, and assuming that she's like a little kid. It's like, so where's your dad? Etc. She's like, no, I'm on my own. I'm traveling on my own. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. And he's like, wait, you're on your own? That's terrible. Oh, it must be so hard for you. She's like, no, seriously, it's fine. I'm just going this way. It's like, he's like, nope, that's decided. I will escort you to wherever you're going because you need someone to protect you. She's like, right. He says, where are you going? I'm going to Atlas City, she says, thinking of a town very far away. And he's like, okay, no problem. She's like, I thought that was going to get rid of him.
But why aren't you... What? Well, it's not like I'm doing anything else. Atlas is as good a place as any.
Fine. And they introduce themselves to each other, and they go to the nearest village, and they go into get some food. Gowry this is all very important character establishment stuff for them. So Gowry basically says, "Well, all right. Tell you what, Lena, I'll treat you to whatever you want off the menu." Lena's like, "Really? I'll have this, and this entire column here." And the waiter's like, "What?" And Gary's like, "I'll have these things, triple portions." And the table is completely covered in huge amounts of food, which they immediately start devouring.
Yeah, these are the two. These are the stereotypical. Somebody hands them a menu. They say, yes, and returns the menu.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
So much food. These two eat everything.
They are both gigantic eaters, and so they sit there. They go through their food and get into a fight over the last bit of meat, because of course they do. And then the village elder shows up, and basically says, you wouldn't happen to be a sorceress, would you?" And she's like, "Yep." And Gowry's like, "Wait, you're a sorceress?" "Yeah." "Could you tell by the sorcerer garb?" "I thought you might be like, I don't know, a fishmonger or something, or a waitress." Cause the leader go, "What? Seriously?"
Gowry's dumb as a stump.
The thing you quickly learn is Gowry is kind of not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He's not the sharpest spoon in the drawer. I'm not sure he's the sharpest tennis ball in the drawer. Boy, it's about as sharp as a bowling ball, round on all edges.
Yes.
I bet ball peen hammers that are sharper than the Gowry.
Rubber mallet, we're talking here.
Yeah.
But at any rate, he basically says, there's this bandit gang nearby, the Dragon Fangs. They've been giving our village ultra trouble. And he's like, "Oh, I kind of curb stomped them a little while ago, and the ones that survived he took care of." And the village elder's like, "Really? Great!" Leaves. So he said, "Great! That means you took care of the dragon too. That's fantastic!" And he bolts out. And Gowry says, "Did you take care of the dragon?" "No."
"I didn't take care of the dragon. Did you take care of the dragon?"
"I didn't know it was there." "Well, shouldn't we do something about it? Do you really want to go hunting for a dragon in the middle of nowhere where we have no idea where it is?" And Gary's like, "Yeah, no." And I was like, "Yeah, all right then." At which point, of course, the dragon flies overhead.
Yes.
And starts attacking the village. Leader comes back in saying, "Well, why didn't you kill the dragon?" "I had no idea it was there. I didn't see it." And Rion's like, "What? Oh, you want me to kill it for you?" "Well, yeah." She basically says, "It'll cost you 30 gold. 20? 25. They haggle a bit. Yeah, she's going to do a price.
Yeah, they begin a bidding war.
She is straight up mercenary.
Yep.
And she goes off to fight. They go off. So she and Gowry go off to fight the dragon. It starts out not going especially well because Lena's not using her really heavy firepower. Most of her spells go kaplink off. Basic spells go kaplink off the dragon. Gowry goes in to attack it. The dragon swats him out of the air and knocks him on top of Lena. Lena eventually decides she's had enough of this.
Oh, don't forget the Dragon Spooker.
Well, yes. At one point, the village elder sort of refers to her and says, "Are you Dragon Spooker?" She's like, lists off a bunch of her nicknames, and she's like, "Wait, I know all the other ones. They all make sense. Dragon Spooker?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it stands for Dragon Step Pass Out of Clear Revulsion." And so later on, pinned under Gowry, the dragon comes stomping towards, looks up at a step on her, looks down, sees her, and steps over her.
With a look of disgust on its face.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, "Ooh, I'm not stepping in that."
In fact, steps past out of Clear Revulsion.
Which immediately pisses her the fuck off.
Yes.
This is when Lena's decided she's had enough of this tomfoolery. Goes flying up into the air because she can. She's got a flight spell. Carrying Gowry up, clinging to her legs for dear life. At which point she flings Gowry at the dragon to distract it. While she goes somewhere to incant a powerful spell. Which she does, which is her big super kill death spell, the Dragon Slave. And it blows up the dragon. And the village.
There was a large crater where this village was.
Yeah.
Now, we're interested.
The Dragon Slave, I believe, is Elvish for collateral damage.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that for a bunch of the show, and this is an important note, is there's a bunch of combat that, when you see combat, it ends up being divided between comedic combat and for serious reels combat. And most of the time,
show does get for serious reels, but it loves its slapstick.
Right. So, for a lot of the time with Lena's big collateral damage spells, nobody really gets, nobody except like the people she's trying to nuke actually get hurt. Like, there's lots of property damage, but very few people actually die. There are times where that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. They do that whole thing where if it's, for example, if it's Lena firing off, the Dragon Slave, the entire town might be leveled, but you'll see the townsfolk crawling out of the rubble, shaking their fists.
Right.
If it's the bad guy that nukes something, there is, salt the earth, this is glass.
Yeah. I mean, there are times Lena doesn't use her, like, when things get serious, Lena will, when she uses her spells, she actually makes note that, like, yeah, I don't want to use this spell here because it will actually kill innocents. Because, like, I can't use like a fireball in this small room; it'll blow up the inn and kill everybody in here. I can't use the Dragon Slave here because it'll kill all the villagers. But at any rate, yeah, the town elder comes stalking up to her, covered in ash and stuff, very angry. Lena says, "So, yeah, about paying my payment for killing the dragon. Wasn't that great?" And he's like, "You blew up the village." He's like, "Yeah, about that. So, yeah, I guess we'll
just get our pitchforks and torches." And then they show up with pitchforks, torches, and pitchforks and torches. Blech.
And Lena and Gowry go running. Lena goes running off. Gowry sort of looks back, goes, bye. Whoosh.
To be fair, the contract was just to kill the dragon.
Uh-huh.
There was nothing said about not damaging anything.
True.
Those villagers are dicks, man. They broke a contract.
To be fair, Lena quickly acknowledged the fact that, yeah, I probably shouldn't have used the Dragon Slave there. It's a bit too powerful. Oops. Bye.
Yeah.
And that's, the first episode. And we're introduced. Lena and Gowry are basically the main characters of the show. There are two others who join up with the group, who are also important. But they come along a little bit later in the show.
Yes. Yeah, Amelia doesn't show up till after the first arc.
Yep. At any rate, so we're quickly then introduced to a couple of mysterious figures. One of whom is wrapped up all in bandages and looks kind of like a mummy with a sorcerer's cape. And another has sort of blue, sort of mottled skin and spiky hair and pointy ears, dressed all in white with a sort of a half mask over the lower part of his face.
He's on the cover.
Shush. Yes, he is. And he's not at all important. Nope, not at all.
No,
these are Zolf and Zelgadis. Zolf is clearly working for Zelgadis, and he's complaining about the fact that there was something that they wanted from the bandit camp, and Zolf had infiltrated there to get it, and then Lena showed up and blew everything up and took everything. And Zolf is very annoyed with her. because
why? I mean, it's clearly what she does. I mean, you don't yell at a shark for eating fish.
Yeah, but she did kind of blow him up without even noticing him. That's kind of a blow to his pride.
I don't know. It's his own fault for hanging out anywhere near where she was going to attack. He should have been watching out for that. Clearly.
Uh-huh.
Why do I get the feeling that Eric used to work in insurance?
So at any rate, Zolf goes after Lena to get the thing back, and catches up with they go to a village. They do stuff. I'm not going to go blow by blow with this stuff because there's hijinks ensue in the village with Lena and Gowry. Lena trying to sell off some of her treasure, and she does some cool, amusing stuff with it. It leads to a truly hilarious scene where one of the items turns out as a cursed knife, and the shopkeeper touches it and gets possessed by it. It's amusing. But then we immediately cut to the two of them having survived that situation or another inn eating, and Zolf comes stomping in.
They do probably the most is eating.
Yes, and Zolf comes stomping in with a bunch of trolls, and he basically sort of demands like retribution and the thing back. And Lena's like, "Well, can we take that outside?" And Zolf's like, "No." Lena's like, "Well, poop." And so a fight ensues, part of which Lena goes zipping around, casting a touch spell on much of the trolls, and tells Garou to basically, just attack the trolls. He's like, but they'll just regenerate. She's like, any scratch will do. And he's like, all right, fine. And basically flings a bunch of acorns at them, causing minuscule damage. Which turns out she's casting a reverse magic on the trolls. It causes their healing factor to turn inward on itself. So whenever damage it would heal, it would actually hurt them.
Which is brutal.
Pop.
Yeah, trolls. So the trolls Zolf is like, that does nothing to the trolls. Watch as they regenerate that minuscule wound as they proceed to implode. And he's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Trolls literally just go.
Yes.
it's like that's brutal.
Hilarity inside my troll.
It's really funny, but it's also, if you think about it, kind of gruesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for a while, none of the trolls are even remotely want to do anything. As you see Zolf in the background going, "Go fight them!" They're like, "No,
I don't want to even. No. Do you have an idea what will happen if I stub my toe? All these floors are wooden. I don't want a splinter."
Eventually, one of the trolls sort of goes after Lena, and she stabs it because she has a sword. And this troll basically goes, grabs the sword, and she's like, "Well, And Gowry has a moment of actual sort of tactical insight. He's like, "Oh, right, the regeneration ability allows them to use the sacrifice themselves as an actual tactic." So the troll basically took the sword blow, grabbed the sword to hold Lena in place while his buddy come to smack her. At which point, Lena channels a lightning bolt through her sword into the troll.
Yes. Fine. Zap.
And they sort of reduce the numbers of trolls, and Lena proceeds to start casting a spell to basically get Zolf to leave. And Zolf's like, "Oh my god, it's a fireball! Run away!" And she sees a little orb of energy floating in her hand, and Gary's like, "Wait, but the fireball, Lena, the fireball." She's like, "Oh, this? Toss it up there. It's a light spell. Don't worry about it. I was just bluffing."
Might be the first time I've seen that trick pulled in a show, honestly.
It's a good trick. Again, Lena's actually very smart.
I mean, I've seen that trick pulled in a lot of places, but this might be the earliest version of it that I've seen.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a good trick. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
And so they have to. Lena eventually pays off the innkeeper for the wrecked inn because the innkeeper's very unhappy, and she's like, "Well," she goes up to him, all very cute and moe, and pleased to offer him a ruby to pay off it, and he's like, "Okay."
Yeah, he wants a lot more. She's like, "Oh, take this. Go on."
Oh, but I'm just a poor girl just trying to make my way. All right, you're cute. Gowry's just like, I can't believe he fell for that.
Yeah. There's also sort of one of those. He's got that sort of look on his face. I'm not sure whether to be impressed or ill. So they go back upstairs. They go upstairs to Lena's room. They talk for a bit. Lena explains a few things. because that's a large part of Gory's sort of not brightness is largely for him to be there as an audience surrogate, so Lena can explain things to him.
Yeah.
He gets the basics of stuff, bad guy, bad, but when it comes to why, he's like,
It doesn't matter. He's
that's
bad.
what smarter people think.
No. It matters because of these reasons, but he's bad, right? Yeah. So we hit him until he stops being bad.
Also, he's quickly come to the conclusion that he knows that he's not that smart. That's one thing Gory knows. He's fully aware he's not a bright guy. And he's come to the conclusion that, on the big things, he can trust Lena, and Lena is smart. He's quickly picked up on that. So if Lena's and she's, at her core, not a bad person. He's picked up on that very quickly.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm willing to go along with the flow, and if Lena sort of has something to point out, and she's got.
I can trust Lena to be my outboard brain. This is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. I quickly realized that when it comes to Gower, Int was his dumpster.
Yes.
Pretty much. Yeah, Int and Wisdom are not his strong suit, shall we say. Every other stat is really good. Because Gower's monstrously strong, incredibly quick, tough as nails, and really, really charming and good looking.
But he is kind of a dumbass.
He's just not smart. And has no memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
He forgets things. At any rate, so there's
this is when Rezo shows up.
No, this is before Rezo. This is when Zell comes up to.
This is when Zell shows up, right?
Right. So at this point, so Lena's basically like, "Yeah, he's clearly after something I took from the bandits. I don't know what though." At which point, knock on the door, and it's Zelgadis and Zolf, and Zelgadis basically says, I would like to talk with you about a business possibility, and I promise you, I swear that we won't do anything dangerous or we won't start a fight or anything. I just want to talk and possibly make a deal. And so the two of them come in, and Zell basically says, "Yep, you've acquired something from that bandit camp that we were after, and we're willing to buy it from you, and we're willing to pay basically whatever you ask for it. I'll pay you whatever you want for the item." And Lena's like, "Okay, well, what item do you want?" He's like, "No. Why don't you tell me what you've got that you think is worthwhile? Tell me how much you'll sell it for, and then I'll buy the one I want." Because if I tell you which one I want, you'll just jack up the price. And she's like,
Yeah.
I totally do that. Yep.
just to lay this out for you, my memory's fuzzy. I think it's either 2 or 3 items she's got at the time, but it goes along the lines of this. See if you can keep up. She has an ornately jeweled, finely crafted, magically enhanced dagger, a really expensive and shiny gemstone of a giant size, and a small, innocuous little clay statue.
So, the statue is actually made from a very...
Guess which one he wants!
Well, no, the 3 items that she comes in, she basically, the gems we can leave aside, right? And he's like, yeah, fine. So, okay, well, that leaves this magic knife, these very ancient old coins, and this statue made of Orhalkin. The statue is actually made of something very rare, so it's actually noticeably valuable.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay. She's like, okay, for the knife, let's see. How about a price of 8? Right, it's like 8 or 9 million gold, and he's like, what?
It's only 100 times the street value.
I was expecting her to charge 2 or 3 times the street value. God damn it! She's like,
you can buy a castle for that.
No, that's not. That's the next one.
She's right. Okay. Yeah.
No. See, you tell me you pay whatever I want. So pay. Buy now. She's like, what else? She's like, okay, fine. The Orhalkin statue. 30 million. He's like, for 30 million, you could buy a castle with the staff. Cue Lena daydreaming about having her own castle with staff and such, with a little price tag underneath 30,000 gold. And she's like, you're right. That's a bit excessive. How about half?
Yeah, just 15 million. Sure.
It's all.
I'm gonna make do it just to keep.
Okay, how about this? We can't pay you that much now. I can pay you 100,000 now, and I'll give you even more when we get to the next when we get to the next town. where I can get to somewhere where there's where I'm keeping all my money. Either that, or another proposition is you give me the statue and travel with us and work with us, and I can guarantee you will get whatever you want at the end, even like double what you're asking. I'll pay you double what your original asking price was. And she's like, I really tempted. That's a lot of money, but I don't trust you. So, no. And Zell's like, fine. Well, all right. So I promised I wouldn't attack you tonight. So, but as of tomorrow morning, you will be my enemy. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Shortly thereafter, Lena starts getting ready to go to bed, and she's like, wait, Gary's still in the room. Gary, out. This is my room. Go. Gary's like, wait, what? Okay.
I guess.
And so it's Lisa and traveling. They get ambushed by a bunch of berserkers sent by Zelgadis. They beat them. Lena fights for a little bit early on, and then it basically cuts to the fight wrapping up, and Gowry sort of wiping out the last few berserkers. Lena's sort of lying there on the grass, sort of going, ah. And Gary's like, look, Lena, I know you. I know I was able to handle this, but it'd been nice if you'd helped a little. And she's like, I'm sorry. But, it just feels so nice out here.
It's such a nice day out. I thought I'd relax.
Gary's like, okay, fine, let's get going. We gotta get to the next town. And Lena's like, no, let me just rest here for a little while longer. No, seriously, Lena grabs her, pulls her up, and she goes, argh! And he's like, wait, are you hurt? She's like, looks down, she's bleeding from the side. He's like, oh God, you got hit bad early, didn't you? And kept fighting. She's like, well, yeah, I'm fine though, don't worry about it. I'm casting a healing spell, everything will be fine. And Gary's like, right. Grandma always told me to be nice to girls. Picks her up and starts carrying her to the next town. She's like, wait, just wait a little while, I'll be fine.
Any kind of a nice way. He just sort of slumps her over his shoulder and starts going.
No, he carries her princess style, actually.
Does he?
So, yeah,
okay.
He carries her in his arms. He's being very careful with her because she's hurt.
Right.
And he's being nice. He's being nice because that's what Gary does. Lena's, of course, mortified by this.
Yes.
Got a little turned on. I think is probably what has her most upset.
Yeah. Well, it's, that's the thing is, as the show goes along, you sort of start seeing more and more little hints that the two of them actually really like each other. Like, they start developing feelings for each other. And I will say this, that continues throughout the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're also the last ones to figure this out.
Pretty much, actually. I mean, Lena figures it out about halfway through the second series. The problem is that she's still, by that point, she's like 16. And Gary's a little bit is older than she is, but not by a ton. He's like 19 at the start of the show.
Right.
But yeah, anyways.
Of course, everyone else figures it out almost instantaneously.
Yes. At any rate, so things pass along a little bit more. Lena sort of explains some of the backstory to Gowry, which is a neat little story about the battle between the gods and the Mazuku, and the leader of the gods, Cepheid, and this giant dragon god, and the leader of the Mazuku, Shabrnigdo. Ruby-Eye Shabrnigdo. And they fought a long time ago, and Cepheid and the gods won, but they weren't able to kill Shabrnigdo. Cepheid basically had to burn all his power and sacrifice himself to basically break Shabrnigdo up into 7 pieces and basically bury him across the world. And then about 1,000 years ago, one of the pieces revived, and there was another war, and the Water Dragon King basically sacrificed himself to basically burn out that piece of Shabrnigdo. And so that's sort of talking about sort of the backstory stuff. And as they're setting up, Lena's like, okay, Gowry, this is kind of embarrassing, but if we get attacked today, you're going to have to do all the heavy lifting. Right now, my powers aren't working. It won't be for a couple of days. And she demonstrates she can't cast. She's like, I can cast a light spell, and that's about it. And Gary's like, oh, huh. Oh, it must be that time of month, right? And she's like, wait, what? How do you, Mr. Jellyfish Brains, know about that? He's like, well, there's a local fortune teller in town who once a month for a couple of days basically had to shut down her shop. And one time I asked her when I was a kid about it, and she said, "Oh, it's that time of the month." What does that mean, by the way? She's like, never mind, Gary.
Yes, it is. That's it. Leave it there.
As an aside, this never after she gets her powers back, this never comes up again in the series.
Yeah.
No.
From what I understand, from reading about it, I read some crossing about it. The writers of the show discovered after the first series, partway through the first series, that they had a much larger female audience than they anticipated, and decided,
They had to cut that shit out.
Let's not do that.
Let's not alienate our best fans.
Some of our best fans, and it honestly doesn't add anything to the story. So whatever, it can go. It doesn't actually add anything. It's amusing for a bit of a one-off thing, and it sort of allows us to have other people shine around Lena for a while, which is actually useful.
Mm. It could have been a thing, but it depends on how fast they want the story to move, because obviously this is an adventure tale. There's weeks, if not months, just between fucking cities.
Right.
So to have her, have all the female cast be incapacitated like 3 times between, just in filler arcs, the timing would
it would get tedious, and it'd stop being funny.
It would get in the way,
and it would stop being funny eventually. So honestly, I think as a one-time gag, it's a one-time thing. It worked out okay, but I'm glad they dropped it because it just doesn't. Once that's done with, we don't need it anymore.
Yeah, and it was a nice little plot thing for what comes up later.
Right. Well, it allows the people around Lena to basically take the spotlight in terms of what they can do. Because Lena and Gowry are then oh right, before this is the bit where we are introduced to Rezo, because they go to bed, and some of Zelgadis' men attack. One of Zelgadis' henchmen, Rodimus, who's a big burly older fighter,
and not a Winnebago.
Right. Shows up with a bunch of trolls.
Nor does he transform even once.
No.
Right. Shows up, kicks down the door to Lena's room, charges in. Lena had been paying attention and had gotten out of the way. Hops in the room, casts a fireball in the room, and closes the door. Rodimus and the trolls survive this, come out to fight, at which point they all sort of go, dar. And Lena's like, Gary's like, did you do that? She's like, no.
I didn't do that. Did you do that? I didn't do that.
I mean, it's just a mind control spell. It's a very basic mind control spell, but to do it to this many people all at once, that's some serious mojo. At which point you hear this sort of chiming noise, and you see the approaching figure of Rezo, the Red Priest. Rezo is this very tall, imposing man wearing red robes with one of those classic sort of Japanese pilgrim staffs, with this metal staff with the little thing on top with the rings hanging off. They make little chiming noises as you move them along. And that chiming noise becomes a very clear indicator throughout the show, actually, eventually. Yeah. And, Rezo basically explains, starts explaining Zelgadis' backstory and what he's up to Lena. And he's like, okay, so, yeah, Zelgadis is actually a chimera, a creation of... He's originally human, but he's been fused partially with a demon and partially with a rock golem. He's a creation of utter evil, and he wants... he wants that statue because it contains something that will allow him to resurrect Shabernigdo. And Lena's like, wait, what? Seriously?
Why would you want to do that?
That's insane. That's stupid and insane. And Rezo's like, yeah, so yeah, why don't you give me the statue? I'm pretty damn powerful. And she's like, yeah, I know, you're Rezo the Red Priest, you're a badass, but why don't I hang on to it and I'll be the decoy? That way you, who are an important, valuable person and contributor to society, are not in any extra danger. And Rezo's like, no, seriously, I'm more powerful. I'm more powerful than you think I am. And she's like, I totally understand exactly how powerful you are, but let me be the decoy, please. And he's like, fine, I'll support you from the shadows. As he previously basically used the mind control spell to order Rodimus and the trolls out of the place. He casts a time rewind spell on Lena's room, repairing it completely, impressing the hell out of Lena.
Right.
The best part is that, he casts a spell and leaves, and Gowry looks at him and is like, huh, What did he do? It didn't look like he did anything. She looks in and is like, oh my god, this is the room I cast my fireball spell into, and it's perfect. Okay, yeah, right. And then she goes stomping over to Gary's room, lies on the floor, says, I'm sleeping in here because they're probably going to ambush us again during the night, and it'd be better if we're both in the same room. And Gary's like, well, why don't you shake the bed? She's like, no, I don't want to be a bother. And he's like, fine. Totally fair. And he proceeds to sleep on the floor also because how could I sleep on a bed when there's a young girl who has to sleep on the floor? And she's like, fine.
Yeah.
I can't argue. Fine, be that way.
It's a case of one of those, okay, that's really sweet. It's kind of pointless, but sweet. As they're clearly trying to be, and this leads to, the discussion about Chat Bernigdo in the history, because Gary's like, what the heck is Chat Bernigdo? Is it something you can eat?
Ooh, Shabba Ding Dong. I think that's his actual line.
Something along those lines. Chat Bernigdo, who? And she's like, okay, I'll explain the stuff. And he's like, okay. Did you understand any of that? Not really. But I understand Chat Bernigdo is really bad. And bringing him back would be a terrible thing. And Lena's like, good enough.
Yeah, you got the crib notes.
all right. He understands it's bad, and we're going to stop it. Okay.
Don't want this to happen. It be bad. Right. Got it. So they travel along, and they get ambushed by Zelgadis, Rodimus, and another Zelgadis' followers, Dilgear, who is a wolfman hybrid who's been fused partially with a troll. He's a wolf-troll hybrid, apparently.
Yeah, they do a lot of this.
Yes. Yeah. Chimeras are a thing in Slayers. Things that are basically have multiple things smushed in, magically sort of smushed together. And yeah. Anyway, so the fight begins. Lena basically is like, "Okay, Gary, take him." Yeah, I'm gonna run away now. So Gary basically fights off Dilgear and Rodimus as Zelgadis goes chasing after Lena. And he's constantly overpowering her, and she's constantly coming with clever tricks to get out of the horrible situations he's putting her in.
She straight up solar flares him.
Yep. Well, she casts a light spell in his eyes. She pulls a classic D&D trick.
Yes.
He basically, he comes up to her, he's like, okay, I've got your corner. She's like, well, okay. She basically starts whispering and talking under her breath. He's like, what are you saying? She says, just come closer, light your eyes. He's like, oh, God, freaking, I fell for that. God damn it. She goes running off. Eventually, he catches up with her. He uses a spell a spell called Shadow Snap to trap her, to basically pin her shattered to the ground with a knife. She goes, well, oh wow, that sucks. But I know the weakness is one, and I can still cast light spells. Light. Start running again. At which point, I forget exactly how he knocks her down, but he gets up to her.
I think he just hits her with a thunder spell, doesn't he?
Something like that. But eventually, he gets up to her and casts a sort of effectively a taser spell and knocks her out and takes her prisoner. And this leads to Lena and Gowry being separated. And Zelgadis, Dilgear, and Rodimus basically fires off a sort of a flare type thing to let them know that he's got Lena. They disengage, and Gowry's sitting there going, why are they running away? I don't know.
Oh, they're fighting me.
They basically point out that flare means that Zelgadis captured Lena and bugger off. And Gary's like, oh, okay, wait, they captured Lena. Oh, that's bad. Huh. How am I going to find Lena? She's missing. I'll go to the next town.
Lena! Yeah, exactly. She's been captured. Maybe we should show up in the next town.
And thus we get to have a bit of stuff with Lena and Zelgadis' people trying to get information out of her, because they quickly realize that she doesn't have the statue. Because it's like, well, we can't find the statue with a location spell. She's like, yeah, I cast a protection spell on it to make sure it couldn't be scryed. And they're like, wait, you can do that? You were a complete wuss in that last fight. Shut up. And they're like, wait. Oh, it must be that time of the month. And she's like, God damn it.
Yeah. Zelgadis, being a caster of his own, knows that kind of shit.
Yeah, Zelgadis like, oh, it's that time of the month. Oh, I'm so sorry, dear. I'm so sorry, Lena.
Also, we find out that in any hostage situation, Lena becomes about 90% sass.
Yes. Well, Lena
Not
is
that she's in a normal situation.
normally
she
she's about
turns it up.
she's normally about 75% sass.
Yeah.
I mean,
when she's got nothing to do, when she's tied up, and the only thing that can move is her mouth, it just goes all, full power to weapons.
I mean, she
chews the fuck out of all three of them.
Oh God, she basically tries to go all Suicide Kings on them. She starts.
But she's a little too impatient and infuriating to do it properly.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, she's not really trying to set them against each other because she's too busy basically screwing with them because she thinks it's hilarious.
She's having too much fun picking on them, honestly.
Yes.
And because the thing is, with it all as well, she loves winding Zolf up because, like Zelgadis has proved himself to be at least, is a competent caster in his own right, but she keeps calling Zolf a third-rate sorcerer because he fell for the old light trick as a fireball thing.
Yep.
What sort of crappy sorcerer are you that you can't tell the difference between a fireball and a light spell?
And Zolf's like, wait, what? That was a light spell? Mr. Third Rate gets it.
You still haven't figured it out.
She pulls the whole sort of he's like demanding her tell where the statue is. She starts sort of talking under her breath and basically making it sound like she can't talk, so he can lean in to hear her whisper, and then she shouts in his ear because. And he basically tries to get Dilgear to intimidate her by showing his teeth to her, and Dilgear doesn't.
And all he does is smile at her. It's a whole slapstick hilarity.
He tells him to smile at her because it's like, haha. He'll smile at her and show his teeth and fangs, and Dilgear says. And Dilgear goes, okay, smiles, and looks adorable.
No, that's not what I wanted. Son of a...
And eventually, Zolf gets fed up and calls in Nunsa.
Oh, Nunsa.
Who is a fishman. Now, there are a lot of different ways you could describe a fishman.
You know that whole thing, that Family Guy joke? When you get a mermaid, it's like bottom half is a fish, top half's a man. What happens if it's the other way around, the top half's a fish and the bottom half's a man?
It's not that either, though.
That's Nunsa.
That's not even Nunsa.
It's not even that. He's just...
It's not.
He's a fish with arms and legs that are sticking out the sides of his body. These rubber sort of toy like plastic person arms sort of stuck into it. It's fucking hilarious looking. And
it's fucking... No, I know what it is. It's fucking Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, it's Mr. Potato Head arms and legs. Yes.
Potato Head only with a fish.
It's get a fish and the bits off Mr. Potato Head and there you go. You've got Nunsa.
It is... The Slayer's fishmen are among the most hilariously stupid-looking things ever. There's a brief bit
because Zolf is so fucking inept.
Yeah, before he calls Nunsa in, there's this beautiful bit where he gags Lena and starts insulting her. And she can't actually insult him back because she's gagged. And it drives her mad.
But it's the most fucking puerile, infantile insults that he can think of as well.
Yeah.
But they work to a degree because he's actually targeting Lena's actual insecurities about her body, and she's 15.
Yeah.
Though he also said, if I'm third rate, then you're fourth rate. Ha! Coming from someone who's clearly an adult, this is really lame, dude.
Hey man, if it works, it works.
Yes. But she eventually
even Zelgadis at this point is just sat to one side, like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah. He's just like, oh my god, whatever. He eventually leaves.
Yeah.
Zolf, during his taunting Lena, gets too close and she kicks him, sending him flying across the room. Which is when he calls it Nunsa. Because Zelgadis is just like, I can't take any more of this, I'm leaving.
I'm done, stupid. Yeah.
So he basically orders Nunsa to give Lena a kiss, which involves him basically shoving her head into his mouth because he's a giant fish.
Very intimate. It's very intimate amongst his people to do it like that.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yes, Nunsa also comes up with the line that he's the handsomest guy from his tribe, to which Lena says, no, just stop. And then that comedic bit ends. We get to see Gowry looking for Lena in town. He's got a picture he's drawn of Lena, which is a giant rampaging monster demon thing. So he shows it to the barkeep, and the barkeep's like, "Nope, I haven't seen any Mazuko around here." And he's like, "Mazuko? I thought I did a really good job drawing Lena." Huh. Oh well.
Lena.
This is where this by the way, this moment is where Gaory's sitting there going, "Where could Lena have gotten to?" Then he flashes back to when Zolf and Dilgir leave with the flare and saying that they kidnapped her. And she's like, "Oh, they kidnapped Lena. They kidnapped Lena! Oh my god, that's terrible! Crap!"
Immediately runs back into the forest.
Yes.
Yes.
Lena.
So at any rate, Zelgadis basically during the night eventually frees Lena because he realizes she's not going to give up where the statue is on her own if he's got her captured. So he's like, "Screw it. I'll free you, and if you take me to the statue, etc." So Lena's like, "Well, he's freeing me. I'll follow along with him for now, but fuck if I'm giving him the statue." But we get to have a little bit of time with Lena and Zell sort of going along together, and eventually Lena asks, "So what the hell is the deal going on here? Like, why are you so hot after the statue? I mean, do you really want to resurrect Sabernigno?" And he's like, "What the fuck? No. Why would I want to resurrect Sabernigno?
Why would anyone want to do that? That's terrible
stupid.
idea.
I don't want the statue itself. I want what's in it, which is the Sorcerer's Stone." And Lena's like, "Wait, what? I had the Sorcerer's Stone in my hands, and it was..."
God damn it.
And he's like, "Yeah, I need that basically, I've been working with Rezo, and yeah, Rezo wants it also." And Lena's like, "Wait, what?" Yep. So Rezo wants to resurrect Sabernigno, and he's like, "No."
Why would you want to do that?
He wants it because he needs a Sorcerer's Stone as a magical amplifier to basically cure his blindness, because Rezo is blind. And nothing he's done, he started doing white magic originally so that he could heal his eyes, and that didn't work. So he turned to shamanism and sorcery, and none of that worked. So he figured, well,
this guy's like goes around like to settlements and like heals fucking leprosy. He's Jesus basically. He can heal anything, but for whatever reason, his eyes will not respond to healing.
Right. He one of his famous miracles he performs is curing other people's blindness. He can cure blindness, except his own.
He just can't cure his own because irony.
Yep. And we find out that Rezo basically is the reason Zelgadis has this chimera demon hybrid body, this stone golem chimera demon hybrid body thing, because it turns out Zelgadis is related to Rezo. I think the line is something like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's both my great-grandfather and grandfather."
Fucking time travel.
Fucking being basically immortal, apparently.
I want to say it's not so much time travel. It's just it is, I suppose, but the long way.
Yeah, Rezo's just really old, and is through his healing magic able to keep himself youthful.
Yeah, and by that logic, meant he decided to booty call on his own granddaughter.
Let's not get into that.
Well,
they could be on two separate sides of the family, Gav. He could be his paternal grandfather, great-grandfather, his maternal great-grandfather. See, works perfectly.
Okay, fine. We'll keep it clear.
No, it's a Futurama thing.
It might be. I don't know. At any rate. Yeah, basically, Zelgadis wanted to become stronger, and Red's like, "I can make you stronger. Here, poof." And I was like, "But I'm no longer human. This kind of sucks." And apparently, the process is painful and horrible. And Zelgadis is like, "Yeah, I want the Sorcerer's Stone so I can kill Rezo because he screwed me horribly, and he's a monster, and he has to go." Yeah, he's not that bad. He doesn't want to resurrect Sabernigno. That'd be stupid. But yeah, he's got to go. And Lena's like, "Not sure I want to give you the statue anyways, but whatever. At least I understand your motivations now."
At least now that makes sense.
Yeah. They run into Rezo in the forest before the conversation. This is when Rezo reveals, that he's behind all of this. And Lena's like, "Aha, right. Yeah." Lisa, one of the funniest bits in the entire series, actually. Yeah. Basically, Rezo confronts them and basically says, "Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, Zelgadis? I mean, I'm stronger than you." And he's like, "Yeah, but grabs Lena. He's like, "What? You think you'd use her as a human shield to stop me?" And he's like, "No, didn't think that at all." He basically fling her past Reza. Reza's like, "What the fuck?" And then he casts the dash spell himself, goes zooming by Reza, and Reza's like, and casts sort of exploding fireball stuff behind him. And Reza's like, "Well, fuck, didn't see that coming."
Well done.
Lena goes sailing through the forest and slams into a tree. Sort of, basically face first to the tree, arms and legs on either side, spread eagle on either side of the tree trunk. Which one she pants the camera and says, "Koala." Sometimes when he's like grabbing her, saying, "Stop screwing around!
Stop screwing around! We don't have time for bits."
Such a weird little side thing. It's like smack koala.
Yeah. By the way, the show is not afraid of breaking the fourth wall when it wants to.
No,
it breaks the fourth wall all the time.
The second series does it more, and at any rate, eventually we get this wonderful little sort of confrontation between Zelgadis and Dilgir, because Dilgir is basically, "Yeah, no, I'm staying sided with Rezo, not you," and Zelgadis is like, "Well, fuck." And they get into a sword fight while Lena has to deal with a bunch of trolls. Well, actually, Zelgadis blows away a bunch of the trolls because Lena hasn't got her powers fully back yet. She eventually puts one of the trolls to sleep. But Zelgadis and Dilgir get into a sword fight, and Dilgir leaves himself open, Zelgadis cuts into his shoulder, and he's like, "Aha! I got you." Dilgir's like, "You forgot I'm part troll, didn't you?" As he regens it. And Zelgadis is like, "Yeah, I did kind of forget that." Another sword fight, the attack happens, Zelgadis leaves himself open, Dilgir slashes like, "Aha, I got you!" And Zelgadis is like, "Yeah, you forgot I'm part rock golem, right? Your sword can't actually hurt me. You need the sword of light to actually cut through my skin." Or something like that. And Zelgadis, there's like, "Well, fuck, I can't actually beat you, you're right. I'm leaving, bye." Whoosh.
Yeah, they literally get to the basic standstill. It's like, aha. So we were both basically hitting each other with the equivalent of wet noodles.
Yeah. Now, the real problem for Dilgir is that as long as Zell's willing to stick with sword fighting, yeah, he can't beat him. The problem is Zell's a very, very powerful shaman.
Yeah.
So Zell's actually a powerful spellcaster on top of being a very good swordsman. Zell's kind of badass.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. They do a good job, though, of making sure that his spell mastery is separate to Lena's, though. So,
well, he's got
they're not...
They don't overlap.
They're not Yeah, exactly. They're not a direct competition with each other.
Yeah, well, again, they've got two different specialties. Lena is literally all about the kaboom.
Yeah, she's a black mage.
Yeah, she's full on boom. Zell's a shaman, which has a lot of weird elemental stuff and nature stuff,
astral stuff,
and some stuff that some various buff spells too.
What we need is that spirit spell with all the spirit.
At any rate, so they go after the conversation where he basically reveals why he wants the stone. Turns out Nunsa's been following them and yanks Lena into the river. And we get to see Nunsa fighting Lena underwater. Lena basically not being able to do much of anything except run away. And Nunsa apparently can fire spines out of his dorsal fin at an incredibly rapid rate. Also, he can charge at someone flailing his arms wildly and be absolutely useless.
But at least this one, he's a fishman, so he can at least swim.
Yes, they're underwater, so he's got an advantage over Lena.
He's actually good underwater.
I have seen shows where even the inept fishman on land is still inept underwater.
Right. Yes. He's at least he has some competence underwater at least.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's a bit clumsy, and Zell realizes what's happened and goes, "Fuck it." Casts a sort of a wind barrier spell around to create a bubble of air. Goes down, gets Lena, pulls her into the bubble of air before she drowns. They see Nunsa charging at them. They step back out of the bubble as Nunsa charges into the bubble, and then inside the bubble of air, Zelgadis goes, "Well, okay," casts Fireball into the bubble.
Just fucking cooks him.
Literally cooks Nunsa.
Yeah.
Who later gets devoured by the various beastmen that were following Zelgadis.
Yeah, but you can't just fucking beastmen.
Dilger's like,
seriously, you was our best friend, and you didn't save me any.
The Beastmen literally bring him in, and it's like fucking spit. It was just like, it's here, it's cooked fish.
Yep. At any rate, so Dilger goes after... Dilger eventually ambushes Lena and Zelgadis in this ghost town, basically. It's dead town. He's got armies of beastmen with him. And Rezo has summoned up a lesser Mazuku to go after them, also, to throw them into the trap.
Yeah.
So, by this point, Lena's gotten her powers back. So, Dilger's like, aha, well, while one-on-one, you might be able to beat me. You won't be able to stop me, Zelgadis, with this entire army behind me. Ha 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 ha. Lena's like, are you forgetting someone? He's like, who? Me. He's like, what are you gonna do? Fireball. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, she's got her powers back. Oh,
Yeah, she's like, oh, bitch, I'm full power. Quickly turns into Zelgadis one-on-one, and Lena versus army.
So they basically, the two of them hop up in the roofs, and like Zelgadis is like, all right, well, let's just split them up and deal with them half and half. And Lena's like, right, rock on. They go sprinting off in different directions, and Dilger and his army basically go following Zelgadis, leaving Lena alone. Lena's like, what the hell's going on? Why are none of them following me? Oh, there's this dude who seems to be floating in midair with fire and stuff. Hi. As the Mazuku shows up to take her on.
Yeah.
She proceeds to throw a fireball at him, which misses, and he's like, you missed. She's like, well, not exactly. Turns out she casts a homing fireball at him. As it turns out, and blows him up. But it does absolutely nothing to him.
Yeah.
And she's like,
you're
you're a full-blooded monster. Class. You have spell resistance. Oh.
Son of a bitch.
Right. And things look really bad for Lena, and she's about to get nailed by it. And at which point, he's basically casts a bunch of sort of energy bolts at her. And then out of nowhere, Gary shows up and knocks the bolts out of the air with his sword.
Because he can do that, because he's a master swordsman.
Yes.
All master swordsmen can do that.
Now, Gary, prior to this, basically, we saw Gary wandering through the woods and looking for Lena. Lena, where are you? When this giant cat demon monster thing pops up behind him, and it's huge. And he's like, ooh, is that Lena? Don't know.
No,
pointy teeth. Flicks one of his giant fangs with one finger. First off, it's like trying to swipe at him. He dodges effortlessly out of the way. Each of its swipes. The monster's like, what the hell's going on? At which point he flicks one of its giant fangs with one finger and breaks it off. And it goes running off.
Yeah. This is when you start to get the impression that Gary's not just a good swordsman, he is monstrously strong.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Gary is Gary is all physical stats and charisma.
Yes. 3's in the other 2 stats.
Not quite that bad, but, pretty bad. At any rate, yeah. So, at this point, basically Gary and Lena run away from the monster for a bit because Lena basically said, you can't beat this thing, Gary. And Gary's like, well, I've got a sword. I'm good at swordsman. And, Gary actually lets slip that they've got the thing that it's after because it's in the statue. Gary basically like, I thought they were after the statue thing. Lena's like, it's in the statue. Well, you didn't tell me. He's like, you're right, I didn't. That's actually my fault. I'm sorry. Because Lena's actually willing to admit when she's wrong. It's not often that it happens. Because Lena's very rarely wrong about big things.
Yeah.
She's wrong about a few small things, but anyways. Eventually they get into a fight. Gowry basically, goes after it, swings his sword at it. Looks like it cuts it in half. The demon's like, the Mazuku's like, bitch. That did nothing. Gowry's like, Alright, well, alright. How about this? He pulls his sword out again, go after the monster's like, what, the sword didn't work last time. He's like, aha, pulls out his needle. But what if I use this? You're going to kill me with a needle? Nope, that'd be stupid. Touches the hilt of his sword, and the blade falls out. How about now?
Yeah.
You're clearly insane. At which point, Gowry basically thrusts the sword forward, says, "Light, come forth," and a beam of light energy comes out of the sword. And Lena's eyes go all goo-goo when she realizes that Gowry has the Sword of Light.
Which is a powerful artifact, which has been mentioned previously.
Yes.
Yes.
And it turns out the Sword of Light is actually very good at killing Mazuko.
Yes. Legendary blade that,
famously killed a very powerful, the demon beast Xanathar ages ago. And it basically cuts the Mazuko in half. He basically goes all Voltron form blazing sword on the Mazuko's ass. And the day is won. Also, basically, Zelgadis is sort of there. He's fighting Dilgir, and at which point Zolf and Rodimus show up, and Dilgir's like, "Aha! With the three of us combined, we can definitely take Zelgadis." At which point Rodimus walks over to Zelgadis and says, "Are you okay, Master?" And Zelgadis is like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Great. And he's like, "I don't care about Rezo or anything like this. My loyalty's been sworn to you." And Dilger's like, "Well, fuck. All right, then, and he Rodimus basically stabs him with his halberd, and he's like, "Ow, that hurts. This sucks." At which point Zolf grabs his sword and says, "Yeah, by the way, I'm also loyal to Zelgadis." Stab. Ow!
Why would you do that? That hurts so much.
At which point he casts a flare arrow at him and fries Dilger. And Dilger's like, "Ah, fuck. All right, you guys win. When I come back to life, you guys are going to pay for this." Bleh. At which point Zelgadis, Rodimus, and Zolf all team up with Lena and Gary.
Yeah, I do like there's a little bit as well, because basically Zolf and was it Rodimus? Was he there at the beginning as well?
He was there early on.
Yeah, so basically Zolf and Rodimus have been there. Basically, they were in the bandit camp the entire time, the very first episode.
Well, Zolf was the bandit camp, Rodimus wasn't.
Oh, was it Zolf? Okay, yeah. Zolf was in the bandit camp. So the entire time, he's basically been a survivor of that fireball. So he's been walking around in, like, a mummy outfit, basically. He's been wrapped in bandages to treat his burns.
Yep.
And then, like, literally, the moment they join, he's like, "I'm better now, by the way. Ha! I'm a mustachioed sorcerer." It's like...
Zolf's character design out of the bandage thing is actually a pretty good character design. He looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig his character design once he's unbandified.
Yeah.
So they go, basically, Zelgadis like, "Okay, so we give us the statue now," and Lena's like, "Nope. But you guys will travel along with us until we can figure out what to do about Rezo." Fine. So they end up at an end. Lena recaps what, the situation as it stands, and they're all sitting there staring at her like... And Rodimus has the wonderful line of, "Boy, she really can talk, can't she?" And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I ran my mouth a bit there. But you understand the gravity of the situation. And he was like, "Yeah, we got it." And Gary's like, "Mostly." So they head outside, at which point, and they run into this little kid who bumps into Lena, and cute little moment, and then the kid turns to stone. And sort of this hologrammatic projection of Rezo sort of gets projected over the kid, and proceeds to basically sort of say, "Look, I'll buy the stone from you." And Lena's like, "What on earth could be worth paying for the Sorcerer's Stone?" And Rezo says, "Well, you're right. It really is bordering on valuable. How about all the lives of the people in this village? They would look so beautifully artistic as all statues like this boy here." And Lena's like,
"Dick."
No.
He says, if you're willing to talk about this, come to my tower. Zelgadis knows where it is," and shuts the projection down and reverts the boy back to not stone. And Zelgadis is like, "So what are you going to do?" "Well, we're going to go talk to him about it. I don't want to give it to him, but we kind of can't, he probably wouldn't just stop with this village. It's like he's taken an infinite number of hostages. We're going to have to play along with him a little bit at least." So they go along to Rezo's tower. They talk with Rezo. Lena sort of says, "So what do you want with this thing?" Rezo explains the blindness thing. Lena says, "Yeah, I don't really buy that. See, because that whole story you told me about Shah Bernigdo, why the hell would you make that shit up? Etc. Stuff. I think, and the fact that you actually sent a Mazuko after us, I think what you're actually up to is you've made a deal with the Mazuko to, in exchange for healing your eyes, you'll resurrect a piece of Shah Bernigdo. Am I right? And Rezo's like, wow, brilliant deductive reasoning. Well done, Lena. I've always thought you were brilliant. And he's like, I didn't expect all that to be actually right. Fuck. Right, well, we're not giving this to you. We're going to blow the statue up right now. Unfortunately, Rezo did when he gave Zelgadis his new body, put in a backdoor program into his head, basically to let him take over briefly. So he basically mind controls Zelgadis into attacking the party while he goes off to do his summoning circle thing. They eventually wake Zelgadis back up, and they go storming up to the top of the tower. Unfortunately, they get there just after he completes the ritual to summon resurrect Shabernigdo. And this is where we find out where Rezo has fucked up. Because the tower is not the location of where the fragment of Shabernigdo is. It's just the place for the ritual to be conducted. The fragment of Shabernigdo is in Rezo's eyes, which is what's making him blind.
Yes, the reason his eyes wouldn't heal. They're basically demon infused.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's one of those, that's just, fuck.
Oh, that's unpleasant. Why would you do that?
Shabernigdo is a dick.
Yes.
And they actually explicitly say, like, it's an inherited condition. His father had it, and Shabernigdo just jumps from father to son all along.
You would think that somebody as smart as, and as long-lived as Rezo would possibly have figured that out.
But he's got Shabernigdo in there, basically screwing with his head the whole time.
I suppose.
You've got the great granddaddy of all demons in his head.
We've seen Rezo is become so obsessed and twisted with his desire to heal his own eyes that he's pretty much completely incapable of deductive reasoning at this point.
Yep.
It could be standing there right in his face and be like, no, that's clearly not it. Healing my eyes will solve all the problems ever. The end.
Right.
Everything is worth that.
And for a brief moment, he can see again, and then Shabernigdo basically resurrects itself in Rezo's body and consumes his body as he comes back to life. And
Shabernigdo turns out to be a crabman with too many arms.
Pretty much.
A little bit, yeah.
So, at which point Zolf is like, Shabernigdo's like, well, since you people helped me be resurrected, I will grant you a boon, and I will allow you to side with me and have a long life, or I'll just kill you all here. And Zolf is like, bitch. It's been 1,000 years since you were here. Humanity has advanced great strides since then. Check it out as I cast the Dragon Slave and obliterate you. And Lena's like, wait, Mr. Third Ray can cast the Dragon Slave? Wait, that's not going to work on him, you idiot! Dragon Slave goes off, hits Shabernigdo, and does nothing. And then Shabernigdo basically fires a beam of energy back which looks a lot like the energy in the Dragon Slave, as an aside. Back at Zolf. Rodimus tries to save him, but they both get obliterated. At which point, while Shabernigdo is being reborn, I forgot to mention, Zell casts a spell which doesn't seem to do anything. And so Zell basically tells Lena and Gary, run. And they're like, yeah, right, gone. Whoosh.
Time to go.
They run away. They go back to town, and they're all gloomy. And Lena's like, fuck it. Okay, we need to get ourselves back into a good mind frame. We're going to eat lots of food and settle our stomachs down and calm ourselves down so we can talk about this rationally. And so they basically sort of talk about exactly, okay, well, we got to stop Shabernigdo. He's been reborn. The Dragon Slave doesn't work. And Gary's like, why didn't the Dragon Slave work? Okay, well, if you listen to the incantation, and the thing is, black magic draws on, like, the way it's powered is by, like, negative emotions and pain and all this stuff. All the stuff that Mazaku are all about. Also, the incantation of the Dragon Slave is literally calling on the power of Shabernigdo to smite my foes. If I was trying to kill him with it, it would be like me saying to him, hey, you, help me kill you. Black magic basically doesn't work on him.
Yeah.
Okay, so our only plan is basically we'll have to lean on Zelgadis' shamanism powers. You're a badass shaman. You probably know even though the raw tilt, etc. That'd be great. And I was like, yeah, it won't work. And she's like, exactly, it won't work. What do you mean it won't work? Well, I actually cast the raw tilt was being resurrected and it didn't work. And he was like, fuck. Okay, well, we have the Sword of Light. Right, so the plan is we're gonna basically, it's like, yeah, okay, we're kind of screwed. We've got the Sword of Light, and that's basically it. And they're like, Zelgadis and Gowry are like, well, right, we're probably gonna die, but we're gonna go off. We have to at least try. And Lena's like, I don't want to die. And they're like, well, that's your choice. We totally respect that you don't want to go off and just die. And you're a kid. You're a 15-year-old kid. Just don't join, and we'll have to kill you. She's like, wait, didn't say I wasn't gonna fight. I just said I don't want to go in there with the mindset that we're going to lose. Even if we have only a 1% chance, if we go in convinced that saying that we have no chance to win, then that 1% becomes 0%. I don't want to die, and that's why I'm going to win. It's like, I love that speech, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good speech.
And so Lena's like, okay, well, so we're going to go in. The plan is basically, Zelgadis and I will basically be supporting Gowry so that the Sword of Light will be our trump card. This is our best hope here. And so they fight Shabernigdo. Yeah. It doesn't go well at first, shall we say. Lena's sorcery does worse than Jack Squat to Shabernigdo. He basically reflects it back at her.
Just dick all.
Zelgadis uses a bunch of shamanism spells, none of which seem to do much of anything. Like, he traps him in lava for a brief period.
Looking pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're great spells, but they don't really do much to him.
Yeah. It's more just of an imbalance in power levels, really.
Yep, and at which point, this is all setting Gowry up to create an opening for Gowry to go with the Sword of Light, which Shabernigdo catches in his hand.
Because Shabernigdo is a cheater.
Right. And so they're like, well, fuck, we're kind of screwed. And Shabernigdo basically starts torturing them because, that's how he gets his... That's basically food for him, is pain and misery. And, Gowry throws Lena the Sword of Light, and she's like, what? And he's like, use it, do something with it. She's like, okay, maybe I can channel spells through it. Channels, a white magic purification spell into it, and it amplifies the power of the spell immensely and annoys Shabernigdo slightly. And she's like, okay, all right, I've got a plan. It's a bad plan, and if it doesn't work, I give up completely because it's my only plan. It's like, the Dragon Slave doesn't work on you, but that's because it's calling on you for its power. What if I was to call on a Mazugu Lord who's even more powerful than you are? And Shabernigdo's like, the fuck are you talking about? She's like, well, you see, I actually know about the Lord of Nightmares. And he's like, oh, hell no. That's like the secret most secret. She's like, yep, and I know it. So I'm going to cast my...
I'm going to the boss.
I'm going to cast the most secret spell in all of black magic that basically only I know. The Giga Slave. And I'm going to channel it through the Sword of Light and hope to God I don't screw this up, because if I do, I'm fucked. Because screwing this up means that basically, I'm doomed.
Yeah, if this doesn't work, then I'm dead. You're dead. Everybody's dead.
Well, it's just the whole thing about, when you listen to the
Pathfinder on the table over there, they're dead too.
When you listen to the incantations that she chants, it's literally calling on, like you said, in the Dragon Slave, it's calling on Shabernigdo and sharing his power and her power and all this sort of stuff. The incantation for the Giga Slave is essentially basically saying, yep, this is pretty much me offering up my soul. Can I have some power, please? And it's one of those things. If that goes wrong, it doesn't matter whether it's Shabernigdo or she's fucked.
Yeah. At any rate, so she channels it through the Sword of Light, and she basically Sword of Light, accept this darkness, and you're like, oh boy. And it's a really cool. It's a really cool looking effect. She casts a spell. Shabernigdo puts up a force wall, this wall around himself to protect himself from it, hopefully. And Rezo's soul basically says, yeah, no. I'm not letting you blow up the world for Shabernigdo, and forces a hole open the wall. Like the Giga Slave slam into him directly, and it kills Shabernigdo. After a brief moment where he trolls everybody by standing there saying, well, that was impressive. And, I grant you the honor of having killed me. Well done. Crumbles into dust.
Yeah.
Just for a moment, he's standing there looking completely unharmed.
The winner is you. poof.
And you see Lena lying there, her hair bleached white by the effort she's expended. And so they go off, and Lena's sort of she's not steady on her feet and such. And Zell's like, so, does this mean you're actually more powerful than Shepard? She's like, oh, hell no. I'm probably, like, if it wasn't for the Sword of Light and Rezo's spirit basically holding Shepard at bay, there's no way that would have worked. I was at best 1/3 of the victory. At best. And we wouldn't have pulled it off without you two either, so just stop that. No. I'm badass. I'm not that badass.
I'm cool. I'm not that cool.
Anyway, so they're about to Atlas City, and Zelgada's like, yeah, I really can't go to Atlas City right now because, I look like this, and in a big city that could be a problem. So I'm going to go off and see if I can find something to cure myself. Good luck, guys. And they're like, yeah, all right, bye. Well, we're at Atlas City now. Gary, what are you going to do? Gary's like, well... So Lena's like, oh, you've agreed to expose me as far as Atlas City. So he's like, well, yeah. All right.
Okay.
So, she's like, so where are you going now, Gary? He's like, I don't know. She's like, well, I'm going to go along wherever you're going because I really want you to give me the Sword of Light because I'd really like to have that. And I'm going to keep trying to convince you until you do. And until you do, I'm hanging around. By the way, this is episode 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. They just saved the world from oblivion at the hands of the incarnation of General Nastiness in episode 10.
Yeah. The next episode is where we're introduced to the last major member of the cast, which is Amelia.
Amelia's awesome.
Yes. The episode starts with Lena and Gowry basically sort of sitting at a crossroads. Lena basically waiting because she's her rumor that this Prince Filionel of Seirun is going to be coming by, and she wants to meet an actual honest-to-God prince for once in her goddamn life. And Gowry's like, are you sure about that? Are you sure he's going to be here? She's like, my information's really good. Okay, so how do you know who it would be? Oh, well, that's easy. Everyone knows what, princes are, tall, charming, pretty, and all this stuff. They ride white horses, and I really want to meet someone like that. And Gowry's like, fine, I'll go ahead to the next town. I'll wait for you there. And so Gowry goes along off to town, and Lena sort of, sits there waiting. And on Gowry's route, as he's walking along, he sees this bandit holding up this traveling merchant, and he's about to go intervene when he hears a voice from up on top of a tree. And you see this young girl wearing all white with pontificating about how, evildoers will be smitten and such, she'll because justice is the one true way, etc. And she comes leaping down at him to attack him, and misses and face plants.
To be fair, if Amelia was American, all of her scenes would be soundtracked by America. Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kinda.
Anyway, she face plants. Gowry sort of pokes her a second. Are you okay? You okay? She pops up and goes, yes. Backflips away and slips on a rock and falls on her ass. Combining incredible dexterity and agility with complete klutziness.
Amelia is awesome.
It's kind of awesome. At any rate, the bandit starts laughing at her, insults her, and basically says, you lame little witch, etc. She gets annoyed and proceeds to basically fling him into the river and throw fireballs at him.
Yeah, she's clumsy. She's powerful in her own right.
Yep. The merchant's like, thanks. Do I owe anything? She's like, no need for a reward. Justice is its own reward. He's like, okay, I'm off then. And Gary's like, okay, so, all right. Are you okay, miss? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. By the way, you wouldn't happen to be working a bookshop, would you? She's like, what? Do I look like I work in a bookshop? Well, no, you look like a swordsman. You shouldn't judge a book by its cover. So you really are a swordsman? Yeah. Ooh, could you help me, please? I need someone to help me on this thing. I need help. I'm looking for my dad. And he's like, okay, before I actually agree, why were you on top of the tree? Oh, that's what heroes of justice always do. It's a great dramatic entrance. And Gary's like, yeah, no, I'm leaving. She's like, please. She grabs on his leg. He's like, please, no, please. We cut back to Lena on the road, and she's like, "Yeah, the prince isn't coming." Right, onto the next village. She eats, and then this guy sort of dressed up like a priest, and this giant brute of a man comes walking into the room, and she's like, "Wow, he looks like a bandit king. Why is he traveling with a priest?" And the priest's like, "Are you a sorceress?" She's like, "Yep." "You want me to get rid of that bandit for you?" He's like, "No, that's not a bandit." Okay. So, no, this is actually Prince Filional. And she's like, "What?" He's traveling incognito. He's the prince. And Phil, as I said, Phil's this giant, brutish-looking guy. It does not fit Lena's picture of a prince in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And the worldview crashing around her literally happens as the image of it in her head breaks and chunks of like plaster and marble fall onto her head.
Just be replaced with Phil's grinning, huge mustachioed face.
By the way, I love Phil.
Bulbous nose. Yeah.
Phil is wonderful. Anyway, so they said, by the way, what's your name? She's like, "Oh, my name's Lena Inverse." "Wait, you're the Lena Inverse? Wait, you've heard of me?" "Well, everyone's heard of you. It's Lena Inverse, the bandit killer, the natural enemy of all who live." Oh, why is my reputation like this?
Yeah, that's one of those nicknames she doesn't like.
Yeah, but she doesn't get too worked up about it. And she's like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "Could you help us like wipe out some monsters in this cave over here?" And she's like, "Well, you're a priest. And Phil's huge, and he looks like he clearly handle himself." Phil's like, "Oh, no. Despite what I look like, I'm actually a pacifist." And she's like, "Okay, we'll pay you, of course." "Pay me," you say. She's like, "Well, I gotta wait for my friend here. We'll pay you with like 5,000 gold." "My friend can wait. Let's go."
Yeah.
Hijinks ensue as they travel along to the cave. They go into the cave. More hijinks ensue. They're honestly quite... Lena basically proceeds to wipe out a whole bunch of monsters. After the first group, they run into a bunch of orcs, which basically Phil says, "I'll go talk to them," and convince them to get out of the way. And Lena's like, "Phil speaks Orcish? Not a word." And he basically says, "Yeah, you should let us through for righteous justice, or else this brutal sorceress will wipe you out." And the orcs run away, and she's like, "Ha, see? What a love of justice will get out of the way." "That sounded like a normal threat to me," says Lena. Run into a Minotaur. The Minotaur does not listen to Phil, so Lena proceeds to kick its ass. And then the vampire's ass. And the mummy's ass. And something else's ass. And the salamander's ass, with just different spell one after another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Phil and the priest's companion, Randy, look at each other like...
Because his name is Randy. Why wouldn't it be Randy? Shut up.
They look at each other, and Randy's like, "Kind of makes you feel a bit impotent, doesn't she?" Phil's like, So they get to the final room of the place, and they run into the boss. There's a big throne and a sorcerer sitting on it. And he pontificates, etc. And so, "You fall into my trap, blah, ha, 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 ha." And then Randy walks up, because this is, of course, all Randy's plan, because Randy is actually Phil's brother and is second in line to the throne. And he wants the throne. And Lena's like, "Okay, what are you going to do when you get the throne? Gonna rule and stuff?" And like this, "Okay, fine, we'll deal with this." He basically summoned a bunch of undead. At which point, Amelia shows up standing on Gary's shoulders, but there's nowhere to perch on in the place. She goes leaping off to fight the bad guys. Face plants again. Gary pokes her with a stick. She backflips into Phil's arms this time when she slips. And proceeds to blow up all the undead. And it's like, she takes out the undead, and Gary and Lena are like, Lena's like, "Where'd you meet her?" She met her, she said she was looking for her dad. Huh. "Yeah, that's Prince Filional. Don't ask Gary. Just, no." At which point, Randy and his sorcerer buddy summon a demon. And Phil's like, "Well, alright, I may be pacifist, but summoning demons, that's just too far."
They do it with like the friggin' like Dragon Ball Z fusion move also.
Yes. Yeah, they do
dance playing patty cake with the dance and sound effects. And so Phil goes charging ahead, and Lena's like, "Wait, what were you doing?" "But you're a..." And he goes flying towards it. "I can't overlook this. Pacifist crush!" And proceeds to punch the demon to death.
One shots the fucking demon.
They summon some more, and he goes in again with kindness towards all creatures kick, wiping out more. And is finished off with Amelia casting a wind spell to go fleeing forward for goodwill towards all men smash. Finishing off the demons.
Oh, All Might needs to learn that one.
Yes.
The first time I watched this scene, I literally was in pain from laughing. Because I was not expecting this. This was in the first episode I ever watched the show.
Yeah.
Randy casts a fireball. Amelia casts a fireball back to counter it. Lena says, "Oh God, when those two fireballs meet, they're going to not cancel each other, but are going to amplify each other. We should run away now." As Randy blows up, Randy and the sorcerer get blown up in the explosion, while the rest of them go booking it out of the mountain. Unfortunately for Lena, the reward money that was promised to her, Randy had it, and it kind of got incinerated.
Because of course.
And yeah. And Amelia spent all her money trying to find Phil. But Phil points out that we'll be able to pay you easily when we get back to Seirun. But Seirun's nowhere near here. I wasn't going anywhere near Seirun. Fine. I'll travel with you to Seirun.
We'll go to Seirun. Be that way.
There's a wonderful episode after that where Amelia wants to learn the Dragon Slave because she sees Lena cast it on some bandits. And it just starts fangirling about it. And Lena's like, "But I don't want to teach Amelia the Dragon Slave. I misuse it, and Amelia will be 5 times worse." So she basically puts Amelia through basically training from hell to try to dissuade her, which it doesn't because Amelia is all gung-ho.
Yeah. I love Amelia. Amelia's all...
We should actually talk about both Zell and Amelia before we forget, because we've been talking about episodes and stuff. So, we talked a bit about Zell during the course of the episodes, but I do want to talk about his sort of personality a bit, but we should do Amelia first, because we're talking about her right now. And Eric, you go ahead with your sort of talk about her.
Okay, Amelia is just this big ball of enthusiasm and just good-natured kick-assery. She's just not very good at kicking ass. She is good at it, but not when compared to the others because, well, you know, she constantly fails her dex checks.
Yeah, and she's definitively the youngest of the bunch.
Yes. She continue with the D&D analogy, she's clearly a couple levels behind everyone.
Yep.
But she makes up for it with sheer bloody-minded, yes, let's go do that thing that will get us all killed, because it's clearly the right thing to do.
The problem is, as we find out a little bit later, without also because of a sense of, I'm guessing justice, but yeah.
Yeah, Amelia's. So the thing is, Amelia is
she's
actually
very naive.
She's naive, and she develops a lot over the course of the show. She learns a lot over the course of the show. Actually, it's a really interesting thing. Like she's a lot less naive by the end of the series than she was when she first shows up. I mean, she still firmly believes in justice and doing the right thing, but she's not as easily manipulatable after early on.
Pretty she's pretty easily manipulated.
Okay, she's like 13 or 14, so I mean, she's at any rate.
Yeah, I love Amelia. She's just a giant ball of ridiculous fun, is what she is.
She's fun. She's adorable. She's likable. And she's also the thing is that she's also a princess, and that actually comes through from time to time. And
yes,
like she's got a certain sort of aura about her of like actually knowing how to be in charge of stuff. I mean, she's a young princess, but she's I love all the main characters in the show to pieces. I love them all. They're great. And Zelgadis is, as we mentioned, we described what he can do. He's a very skilled swordsman. He's a shaman. He's a good spellcaster. His skin's made of rock, so he's bordering on invulnerable to non-magical weapons. Zell is a badass. But the thing about him is, he's at first you think he's like sort of he's going to be the boring sort of straight-laced brooding hero, and he is to a degree. But he's got this sort of very sort of somewhat dry sense of humor,
Yeah,
he's
he has a very
sarcastic.
dry, sarcastic sense of humor.
He's snarky.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
the man is dry as the Sahara and plays the straight man a lot.
He does, but he gets his own lines in, and he's also like he's very driven by wanting to get his human body back. But at his core, he's actually a good guy. And that's one of the sort of the themes about like most of the main characters throughout all the Slayer series, with one notable exception, which we won't talk about during this episode because he doesn't show up in this season. But like even the ones who seem like at first like they're like Lena, at first glance she seems like she's greedy and immoral, but at her core, she's actually a good person.
Yeah.
Sure, she's a bit greedy, but she's not
Well, we see that she's given the opportunity to make huge amounts of profit several times, and turns them down in favor of not fucking everybody.
Right. No, when push comes to shove, she will do the right thing. Like
yes,
if there is a personal profit versus helping people, she usually will choose the helping people thing. If she can get paid while helping people, all the better.
So much the better.
But if people are really in need, she'll help them. Anyway, I do want to speed things up a little bit. So,
we've been going for a while now.
Needless to say, Amelia eventually is taught that she figures out that the Dragon Slave wouldn't be a really good tool in her hands, so she stops pestering Lena about that. They get to Seirun, and when they get there, they find that there are bounty posters out for Lena and Gowry and Zell. Because someone has posted a bounty on their heads, and bounty hunters are all after them. And Amelia initially assumes that, oh, well, if their bounty posters out for them, if their bounty's out for them, they're clearly bad guys, so I should bring them in.
Obviously.
She just turns on a fucking dime.
It's like, what did you do? I didn't do anything that I remember.
Well, you got a bounty on you, so you must have done something, so you're... And justice must prevail!
Yes. Anyways, eventually, Lena and Gowry basically, run away from a bunch of bounty hunters, beat up some bounty hunters to try to draw out the bosses. Eventually, Lena's captured because she's greedy. And we're introduced to the two leaders of these the two people who basically are the two main antagonist bounty hunters who keep showing up. Vermagun, who's a sorcerer, and Zangolis, who's a swordsman. Can we say rivals for the main characters, people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vermagun is this cold, emotionless sorcerer, and like Lena continually tries to provoke him and fails. And Vermagun is this very skilled swordsman who realizes Gowry's really good and wants to beat him badly, and that becomes his sole focus.
Clearly, I have to beat him. It's just how it is. We're both swordsmen.
At any rate, eventually, Amelia, shenanigans happen. Lena and Gowry power off with their counterparts for a duel. Amelia basically comes to from being knocked out briefly, and decides basically trying to figure out who to side with, because both Lena's like, look, you know us, we're not bad guys. And Amelia's like, but I don't know, they were so convincing. Wait, I know, justice always prevails, so whoever wins is the good guys. So she throws a fireball and blows all four of them up. Blowing up the tower it's in, the towers that they're fighting around. Also, Lena and Gowry get up. She's like, yes, I knew you guys were the good guys. And Lena's like, my ass.
See, this is the thing, that she's this naive, and the whole while Phil, who is the fucking prince of this city, of this entire area, is like, yeah, I know you're not bad people, but I'm official, and there are bounties against you. That's kind of an official thing. I can't really pardon you, so
I have to stay clear of this.
I'm not going to stop you. Yeah, I'm not going to stop you, but you're on your own.
Yep, which is reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things you find out in the second series is that Phil is actually like a legitimately good leader and is beloved by his people.
Yeah.
And actually, watching Phil, you can sort of understand why. He's a really, really good guy. At any rate...
a little bit gung-ho, but yeah.
Well, yes. That's part of the reason people love him also, honestly. Anyways, Amelia, having blown the tower, feels a bit amiss with her, so she travels with Lena and Gowry as they go off to Cyrag, which is where they were supposed to be, where Zangles and Vermeulen were going to take them. Because they're like, we're gonna go there on our own. We're not going to be drugged there by these two. What follows are a series of really funny and fun episodes for their trip to Cyrag, and lots of shenanigans.
The road to Cyrag.
And we're not going to hit these episodes because A, they're funny, and I don't want to spoil all the jokes, and B,
it becomes a bit Team Rocket. So the two bounty hunters show up, something happens, and the heroes get away.
Yeah. The important bit is that early on in one of these, Lena blows Vermeulen up, and you see him being disintegrated by her attack. And he shows up again later, which is a little bit confusing. And, Zangles refers to him as the Phoenix at some point. And we eventually find out why this happens. They eventually get to Cyrag after many shenanigans and hilarity. The wedding episode and the boat episode being... The wedding episode, the play episode, and the boat episode all being hilarious.
Yes.
Yes.
So they show up in Cyrag. There they actually meet the last member of member of the party. She's sort of a guest member. She shows up from time to time in the series. Silphiel, who is a shrine maiden. Amelia primarily focuses on white magic. Silphiel specializes in white magic.
Yeah. Amelia does a little bit of other stuff and does a lot of punching. Mm-hmm. She really likes her punching. But Silphiel pretty much just does white magic. And she's good at
there's a couple of times where she tries to throw like spells or black magic, and it's like, oh dear lord, what the fuck is that? She tries throwing a flame arrow at one point, and it's a flame toothpick.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even hit.
It's a flame carrot.
A flaming carrot, and it doesn't even hit its target. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, you go stand at the back, love. You're gonna get hurt. Then to turn around, giant fireball coming away, and it's just like, yep, wall.
Yeah,
which is more powerful than the other three combined.
Yeah, they're like, oh god, we're barely holding this attack back, and then Silphiel throws her shield spell up, and they're all like, oh.
Yeah.
Silphiel is very good at the defense. Very, very good at the defense.
Yes, she is.
She's got the best defensive spells of the group. She's the best healer of the group. And if they ran into, Lesser Mazuku, I'm pretty sure her purification spells would be brutal against them.
Hmm.
But they don't. Anyways, we meet Silphiel. Turns out she actually, knows Gowry from back in the day. She's got more than a bit of a crush on Gowry.
Yeah, more.
Yeah.
She's flat out in love with him,
mildly.
honestly. I mean, she's flat out in love with him.
Yeah. I mean, is it Gowry's from their original?
He was passing through the area and got in trouble and got hurt, and she nursed him back to health. And he remembers her because she's a really good cook.
Yeah, well...
Because that's how you get Gowry to remember you. Feed him.
Like I said,
or be someone like Lena and be completely and utterly unforgettable.
Yes.
The Gowry. Gowry actually does a pretty good job of remembering his actual friends as the series goes along. He would never forget Amelia or Zell either, to be honest.
Yeah.
No.
But at any rate, eventually they find Rezo had an old lab there, so they're going to go investigate there. No, that's not what happens. They're sneaking into town when they get ambushed by Zangles and Vermeulen. No. That's right. They go to Rezo's mansion for some reason. I forget why. And we run into Eris, the woman who put the bounty on them. And Zangles is there, and Vermeulen shows up. And this is where we find out that Vermeulen is actually a copy man. She's cloned him a whole bunch of times. So every time he dies, she brings another one out. And then they bring out a bunch of Vermeulen's out all at once.
Also, I'm pretty sure I've listened to Eris's band.
Yeah. But this is Rezo's mansion. We see a portrait of Rezo. They explain that they fought Rezo. Amelia's like, but wait, Rezo's a good guy. It's more complicated than that, Amelia. Okay. And they fight. They basically effectively beat the Eris, Vermigún, and Zangulos when Zelgadis shows up to save save their asses, basically. At which point Rezo comes out, and everyone's like, "Wait, you're dead." Nope, I'm not.
Wait a minute, who is that guy? Gowry, that's Rezo. Who?
Turned into a giant demon. Huh?
He's a bad guy, Gowry. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
He's a bad guy, Gowry. Okay. That I understand.
Right. So Rezo basically starts attacking them. They try to fend him off. He's overpowering them, which is when Silphio shows up and puts up her wall. They run away.
Yeah.
They eventually get caught up with Rezo again. He and Zelgadis go one-on-one as they sort of duel on the sides. Everyone else is on the sides. And then Rezo basically starts channeling an immensely powerful spell. And they're like, oh god, when that goes off, it's going to be awful. We have to run away or we'll just be blown up. So they basically they put together a team effort to create like a wind sphere around them so they can fly. Shield spells all over the place and, zoom away. And Rezo blows up Cyrag.
Yeah, he just nukes the entire city.
And this is one of those times where it's not a comedic blow up the city. This is everyone's dead blowing up the city.
Yeah, Silphio actually freaks the fuck out because her family was there.
Yeah, her family's pretty much been annihilated. Everything she knows. And
we meet her family. Her family's really nice. They feed them.
Yep.
Despite what a bad idea that is for their financial situation.
Yeah, her dad seems like a really nice guy. He's a priest. He's a good guy priest, etc. Boom, city blown up. So they're like, okay, well, fuck, right. Zelgadis mentions that Rezo had a lab somewhere in Old Cyrag, which is where the previous town got blown up during the fight between the legendary Swordsman of Light and the Xanathar, the Demon Beast, which we mentioned earlier. So they're like, well, okay, we'll go to Rezo's lab and see if we can find Zelgadis is here to look for Rezo's legacy because he figured that maybe that could help him cure him. So like, okay, well, we'll go to the lab. Maybe there's something there to deal with the situation, find out what the fuck's going on. They eventually figure out Rezo's a copy. Because, well, okay, if Eris can clone Vermigún, maybe she cloned Rezo, and that's their working hypothesis. And they do some stuff to figure out maybe if, Rezo is, how powerful a clone can be, and they find out eventually from the guy they talk to. In theory, they could be as powerful as the original, maybe. We don't know. We never really had a full clone of someone really, really powerful. Some hilarity ensues involving that, but anyways.
Yeah.
So they eventually get their way into Rezo's lab. The reason that... So Eris basically mentioned that she wants Gowry's Sword of Light. This is the reason that she's basically put the bounty on them. And they eventually get a point in Rezo's sort of secret lab that they can't get past because you need something like the Sword of Light to get past it. And so they use it to get in there. But that also opens up a thing for copy Rezo and Eris. So they go winding their way through this dungeon of a lab. They get separated briefly. Eventually, Gowry, they get separated a bunch, so stuff happens. They get reunited, but Gowry ended up in an arena with Zangulos, so they actually finally have their big, long sword fight with their magic swords of doom. Because Zangulos also has a magical sword that can fire energy blasts out of it.
Yeah.
Gowry wins because, you realize that basically he's not really trying that hard because he doesn't want to kill Zangulos. Gowry doesn't like killing people. He's good at it, but not what he likes doing. It's like, no, I'll fight him and beat him, and that's fine. And like Lena basically, when he shows up, says, we're not going to get involved, but Gowry, if you win, I'll treat you to dinner. And Gowry's like, oh, really? Smash! And he beats Zangulos, and Lena basically says, oh, no, I didn't say I would treat you to dinner. I'd love you to treat me for dinner if you win. Gowry's like, don't try to get out of this, Lena.
Oh, now you remember that. Yeah, it's food.
They argue in comedic ways, and they're also very happy to be reunited, and it's very clear. And like Silphio, this is where Silphio realizes, oh, they really do have feelings for each other. Like she kind of figured this out earlier, but she's like, she knew that Gowry sort of she was pretty cool, thought that Gowry liked Lena, and then she's like sees Lena, she's like, yeah, it's a thing between both of them.
Yeah.
and anyway, so they eventually get their way down to
another one of those instances of everyone going, like seeing them together for 15 seconds and going, oh yeah, they're clearly a couple. They just don't know it yet.
Right. Anyways, they work their way down. They run into this Mazuko who looks like a chicken. And this is hilarious. Tiba. Mr. Chicken. Eventually, he tricks them into he tricks them in a way so he's able to get his real monster form back. They fight him, and in fighting him, they discover Rezo's legacy, which is this replica of the Claire Bible, powerful artifact thing, which turns out is what Eris is after for Rezo. And it turns out what she's going to use is it's going to use it to, because it turns out that the demon beast Xanathar was not completely slain. He was slain, but to prevent him from resurrecting, they planted this holy tree on top of him to absorb him, so he couldn't resurrect. And using the Claire Bible, they were going to fuse Xanathar with Rezo to give him even more power. With Copy Rezo. And so fight ensues, they try to stop it from happening. Of course, it does succeed. But right before it does succeed, it's about to succeed, and Rezo kills Eris because, his whole reasoning for what he's doing is he desperately needs to prove that he can surpass the original Rezo. And to do that, he needs to beat Lena and Gowry and the team. And he knows, because he's been spying on them, he knows that he can't do that at his normal power level because they beat Shah Benigdo. So clearly he needs more power. And
yeah.
Eris has these gems that allow her to control her copies to some degree. And while she wouldn't fully control Rezo because she used to be one of Rezo's followers and loved and was in love with him.
Yeah, she just wants him back.
She wants Rezo back.
Yeah.
But she's in Rezo's way, in Copy Rezo's way, so he kills her. He can't do what he wants to do if she's still there. Because Copy Rezo is more than a little insane.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He does fuse with Xanathar, and this goes into the final battle, basically, of the series. As our heroes try to fight Copy Rezo fuse with Xanathar and don't do very well. They try a bunch of stuff. Lena's he's basically saying, yeah, go on, cast a Giga Slave at me. That's the only way you can beat me. And Lena's like, I don't want to cast a Giga Slave because A, I thought it was a bad idea before, but B, Silphiel actually told me the whole deal with this Giga Slave and exactly what could happen if it goes out of control, which isn't merely just killing me and people around me, maybe, but it could actually just wipe out existence, return everything to chaos. So no, I don't want to cast that. The first time I cast it, I was okay. I still would have done it because if I didn't, then Shepard would be reborn and everything would be blown up and turned to chaos. So
yeah, it was a no-win situation either.
Right, this is a personal fight. I don't want to cast this.
Yeah, all that Rezo is doing is this is just his ego, the ego of the demon that's possessing him. Basically, wants to prove that he's more powerful than Shah Benigdo, that he can take a Giga Slave.
Right. And so he proceeds to start basically just like beating the crap out of all of Lena's friends and basically torturing them and basically saying, yeah, if you don't cast it, I'm going to kill them all right in front of you. And you can't stop me unless you cast a Giga Slave. Which is literally the only buttons you can push with Lena to get her to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Lena's like, fine, I'll do it. And she starts casting the spell. Silphiel sees this and is like, no, Lena, you can't. She doesn't, begs her not to. And, Rezo is, okay, I can't have that, and he basically fires his murder beam at her because he's like, okay, I'm not going to torture her, I'm going to kill her because she's clearly the only one who's going to be rationally do this.
He straight up freezer finger beams her.
Yeah.
Except that it doesn't hit Silphiel because Lena sees it happening and dives in front of her and shoves her out of the way, taking the hit. And we have this moment where you see Lena on the ground bleeding out as everyone realizes, oh fuck, Lena's dying. She's not responsive. Silphiel and Emilia go diving on top of her to try to stop the bleeding, basically, first. And they do. And Gowry basically turns to Silphiel after they stop the bleeding and says, okay, Silphiel, take Lena, get the hell out of here, heal her, we'll stall. And Sylvia's like, well, wait, and Zell's like, yeah, absolutely, we need Lena at like 100%, otherwise we have no hope. We need everybody. So no, go, foosh, we'll buy time. But there's this moment of Gowry basically saying, yeah, I'm going to protect my friends now.
Yeah.
And so they fight, Rezo for a little while, and Rezo's like, bitch, please. And so as they're basically trying to come up with a plan to deal with it, Phil comes riding in. On a white horse. Literally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sees what's going on, says, fine, I'll take care of this. Goes leaving towards him for pacifist crush. Rezo sort of goes, the fuck? No, Biff.
Stop that.
So, Zelgadis basically goes, okay, time for plan B, run away for a bit. So they run away. Zelgadis and Amelia both try casting Rot Tilt on Rezo. It doesn't work. And so they sit there sort of in the ruins, sort of casting healing spells themselves, trying to get themselves back up into shape for fighting, and B, trying to come up with some plan. And eventually, Gowry says, well, what we need here is the spirit spell with all the spirit. And Amelia and Zell look at him like, the fuck? No, that one thing that, you and Lena were talking about when we're fighting Shabra thing. Shabra Ding Dong, whatever.
Shabra Ding Dong.
Oh, you mean the Rot Tilt. Well, we've explained why that didn't work, and we tried it anyways. It's too bad Lena's not here. If she was here, she when she cast spells in my Sword of Light, it really powered them up a lot. It's too bad she's not here. And at which point, Gowry and Amelia go, why didn't we think of that? You're a genius, Gowry.
Of course.
What do you mean genius? You've come with a perfect plan. Well, but Lena's not here, so she can't do that. Oh, he didn't realize what he was saying. Fine, we've got a plan, Gowry. Don't worry about it. So they go out to confront Rezo again, and their plan is basically, do spells and cast channel spells through the Sword of Light so Gowry can swing it and fire them at Rezo. And we cut back to basically so Silphiel gets Lena down underneath into these tunnels beneath the Holy Tree of Flagoon, which is the one that's on top of Xanathar's body. And one of the things we noticed during all of this is that whenever Rezo has these sort of ghostly dragon heads sort of floating around him. And whenever the heads get anywhere near the tree, they sort of flinch away, and sort of you see like energy flaking off them into the tree.
Mm.
And Silphiel realizes this, and she basically, part of the reason she stopped Lena, she says, I think we can beat him without the Giga Slave. And she's about to tell Lena that, which is when Rezo does the Frieza finger beam, as Gav put it. So yeah. Silphiel basically gets Lena down there. It's like, okay, now to cast more healing spells to get her back up. Lena's not breathing. Oh fuck. Into CPR mode. She does CPR, gets Lena breathing again, and heals her. Lena's still unconscious. Silphiel goes deeper into the tree, down to the bottom, and brings Lena with her, bonking her head on something a root as she's going down. And goes out. She gets to this little pool of lake thing. Then there's a sword floating out in the middle of it. Silphiel goes gets the sword. Lena wakes up, surprises her. She falls in the water. Anyways, Silphiel explains the whole thing with Flagoon and says, and I think this sword will help too. And Lena's like, okay, this is the Blessed Blade. She grabs it, and it heals all the wounds that Silphiel hadn't cured already. And Lena's like, the hell is this sword? And apparently it's connected to Flagoon and all this stuff, and it's a powerful blessed sword, basically. And Lena's like, right. Okay, then I actually do have a plan. Great, we can do this. Let's go. So they go back up, rejoin the team. Meanwhile, Zelgadis, Amelia, and Gowry are fighting Rezo, and they actually do damage to Rezo and and Xanathar.
Yeah,
those tricks.
Ghost.
It's
Ghost King Ghidorah is basically what he is.
Yeah, and they're doing damage, but they're not doing enough. They make him bleed. They make Rezo bleed, and Rezo's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, you guys are actually buff enough that I'm actually going to try now and kill you people.
Yeah, so Gowry charges in with the blade, charged it with the Ratil, and it's like the dragons come out at him, and he slashes at the dragons, and the head falls off. And Rezo starts bleeding. He's like, oh, shit. Okay.
You people are actually a threat. This is good.
Yeah.
So Lena comes
No,
back
I
out.
can kill you.
Lena comes back out with Silphiel, and like, I was like, "Great, Lena, here, take the Sword of Light. You're giving it to me? No, use it to kill Xanathar." Like, no. In that case, I don't need it right now, Gowry. Throws it back to me. He's like, "Wait, what the fuck?" And she's like, "No, I'm going to use this sword." So she basically said, "Okay, here's the plan."
I have a plan.
I actually have a plan now. So she basically said, "Okay, here's what you guys do. What you were doing with the whole channeling, shamanist spell, like astral spells and the Sword of Light, great thing. Keep doing that. I need you to tie Rezo up so we can pull this off. Silphiel, you hang back until I give you the word to do what you're going to do, and play defense until then. And I need you guys to basically buy me time to actually line Rezo up against the tree. Got it? Okay." So they do stuff. Rezo basically, they eventually figure out how Rezo is casting ridiculous spells. He's got the Demon Beast Xanathar thing is causing him to create these like demonic mouths on his hands so they can cast like 3 different spells simultaneously, amongst other things. Totally fair.
Oh yeah.
So they do stuff. The fight goes on for a little bit, and eventually Lena goes looping up in the sky, flying, comes looping back down, goes charging at him, sword out. He starts casting spells. They start deflecting them and such, and she drives the sword into his chest, flies up, and impales him to the tree with the sword. And Rezo's like, "Well, that hurts, but what else are you gonna do?" And she says, "Okay, now Silphiel." And Silphiel then proceeds to cast a recovery spell in the tree, a healing spell in the tree, healing the tree fully. And then it proceeds to, between it and the Blessed Blade, devour Xanathar, leaving Copy Rezo there, impaled to a tree by a giant fuck-off sword through his chest.
Yeah.
Apparently, when I don't have demonic energy coursing through my veins, I have a normal human body.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Big Maul sucks.
And they defeat Rezo. Copy Rezo. And, he basically is sort of like, why were you able to beat me? Why could I have not surpassed the original Rezo? And Lena's like, well, that's because you had no idea what you're going to do after that. All you saw was one thing in front of you. That's all you focused on. And when that got you to a certain point, you had nowhere else to go. And, she says, what do you want written on what name do you want on your gravestone? He's like, I don't want a gravestone. Just bury me beneath Flagoon,
See, that to me, for me, that's one of those big red flags. It's like the really powerful sorcerer that has like immortality and knowledge of all that kind of shit, and he asked you to bury him underneath the magical tree. Do you want fucking zombies? Because that's how you get zombies. Okay, that screams to me. Bury me under this tree. I don't have a specific plan right now, but it's my best chance of coming back.
Which is why they ground him up into hamburger and fed him to the refugees.
That's not what they did. We don't know. We assume that they did bury him underneath the lagoon. We don't know, though.
In my head canon, they ground him up into hamburger and fed him to the refugees.
At any rate, they basically spend some. The series ends with like scenes of Seirun being Cyrag being rebuilt, our heroes eating and such, and eventually, Lena and Gowry going off on more adventures together, and that ends the series.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Slayers, the first season. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Okay, I like this series a lot. It's really funny. I really enjoy all of the characters. It doesn't have Zelos, who is the best character. He shows up at the second season, but it still gets by. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really like all the characters. Gowry and Amelia are probably my favorites. Mm-hmm. And yeah, one of the few shows that makes me laugh out loud on a regular basis.
Yep. Like even on repeated viewings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think, Eric, you should talk a little bit about the animation, given
yes.
that it's 92. Given that it's 92, though.
Yeah. Given that it's 92, it's all right. It's nothing. It's better than average, but it's nothing noteworthy. It makes up for it with just a lot of heart.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, no one's going to be dissecting the animation techniques there for class or anything. It's good. It does the job. It occasionally is pretty damn good when they decide to
Yeah,
spend the
let's
budget
say-
on one scene. But
Some of the effects, some of the attack effects and the rest of it, they're really good.
yes, the Giga Slave, all the black crackling lightning and the fissures in space time and all that. That's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reuse certain animation sequences also. Like Lena's animation sequence for casting a fireball is often reused, and then that's well animated, but it's reused a lot.
Yeah, and that's par for the course for 92.
Yep.
I mean,
But the one thing that I always appreciate as well, I mean, as someone who tries to paint, it's more modeling side of it, and I know it's an art form they've kind of got it mastered. But one thing that I really like is because it's a 2D painting.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, this is not the time where you got a lot of CGI and that kind of thing. But
no, there's no CG in this, and it does have that advantage. It's all hand drawn, and it shows
exactly. And the one thing they did really well is like you mentioned that animation of when Lena starts casting, the light effects.
Yes,
the lighting effects during those scenes are awesome.
Yeah, and I'm comparing it to other. I'm comparing it to other
techniques to do it, but it's really. Trust me, as somebody who's tried to paint it, it is really hard to get a set of colours of just matte colours of normal everyday paint to actually look like projected light.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm comparing it to other stuff, frankly, out of Japan at the time, because in the States you had Disney's feature films, which is not fair to compare it to, and Batman the Animated Series. Everything else was trash.
and Disney's TV cartoons also at the time were also gorgeous.
Yes.
Like, Gargoyles and
Was
Darkwing
Gargoyle
Duck.
too? For some reason, I want to say that's.
It's a bit later than that, but they were all in that era, and all of them were really well animated. Even DuckTales was well animated.
Even so, the bit I'm getting at again, it's easy to do atmospheric lighting, and shadow and all that kind of stuff, and torches burning and that kind of stuff. You can use the warm colours and all that, and contrasts and all the rest of it. But to actually get that impression of actual light. The way I don't know what it is, but there's one or two scenes, because, you see a lot in anime where the beam effects and all that kind of thing, which is all well and good. But when you see it casting its, a light source against an actual person, something you recognize, it's not just a beam of light across the screen, it's an actual... You know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but they actually managed to get that for me. They get that little belief that there's actually a light there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the shadow. It's not just the suggestion of light. It makes you think there is an actual light source there. And for a 2D matte painting, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the animation which Eric's right. It's most of it's not anything to write home about, but when they actually go all out, it's some of the best stuff for its time.
Oh,
in the little bits here and there.
They save their budget for when they want to do something really awesome.
Yep.
And it shows. But at the same time, they never. At the same time, when they're not spending that much money, it's still quality. It's still above average for the time period.
Yep. Yeah.
It's and the character designs are really good.
Yes.
Across the board. Shabernado is like one of the few letdowns in my opinion.
Because you don't really get a good look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shabernado
is massive red against a red background.
You get hints and aspects of him that I kind of like, but yeah, I very much got the impression that he was a crab person with too many arms.
Yeah, he's also not animated very much at all.
No, he's imposing to stand for.
He does fall in the category of too big to animate.
Yeah, he's got one of those things where he speaks without moving his mouth because his mouth is just a massive.
And that's fine. That doesn't bother me.
But they use their writing really cleverly to save money on their animation as well, because the number of times where Gowry will say something and the only response is Lena looking at him trying to figure out, are you really that dumb?
Yeah.
Yes.
But while you're looking at that, it's like, this is a perfectly still frame. I'm looking at a still picture. I didn't notice without thinking about it.
Right, because it makes sense in context. It's entirely the...
Yeah. And same, it goes, and they do it the exact same way the other way around, because Lena will say something, it'll cut to Gowry, and he's just staring at her, and you're thinking, are you really that stupid? Did you just get that? And he's like, huh. And nothing's been animated, but they've managed to tell that story, and they've burned a good 10 seconds of animation time in just a still shot.
Yeah, and that's all very well done, like budget saving stuff that's rampant through this, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like we've seen in some shows where it's like, oh wow, that wasn't even like a special attack or anything. That was just the same fight scene we had earlier.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's there are reused animation things, but it's like calling out Sailor Moon for using the same transformation sequence in every episode.
Yeah, don't know.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I also want to say I want to comment on the writing of the show, because it is a very well written show, especially given the fact that it is a 26 episode series, and it does not feel long. It is really rare, especially for its era.
Yeah, and there's no filler, honestly. There are some... I mean, yes, there's some sort of filler, but it all feeds into the larger plot of what's going on.
Right. Like, even so the trip to Cyrag stuff, those could have been filler episodes, but they all tie into the trip to Cyrag, and we keep having the recurring characters, Zangulis and Vermigund, showing up to make trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll admit, for a good portion of that bit, it kind of took me back, and I thought it was almost like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
And like the old Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Yes.
Oh god, that was terrible.
Yes.
It was terrible, but imagine this. The pitch is, okay, this is the show we have. It's about a bunch of guys going around, basically playing Dungeons and Dragons, and this is the story.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's that in a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with the Japanese style, it's just a little bit more.
And those episodes also had character development in them for the characters. They did advance the story. They were clearly getting closer to Cyrag, and they were genuinely funny.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Again, this is at its heart, this is a comedy, and it's funny.
Oh, yeah.
But there's an actual story and character development through it, which I adore. And I love that about the writing. They do a really good job of being funny, and they do a really good job of getting serious moments in there and not having it feel like a complete slap in the face tonal shift.
Yeah.
It's a clear tonal shift, but you're like, okay, I can. They built up to it a little bit at least. I was prepared.
Yeah. So, like for example, we've had this whole bit where it was comedy. They were having the standoff with the false rezo, and then it's like it doesn't just out of nowhere go boom, city annihilated. It's like no, you see him start to become more conscious. He starts making threats. They're talking big, and then he starts powering this up, and the mages in the party go, "Oh shit,
right?
We don't want to be here." And it gives you that sort of, that warning where it's like, okay, so, so we've seen how powerful they are. They don't want to be anywhere near this. Okay, this must be bad. And it gives you that little acclimatization until they get to their safe distance, and then you get the boom.
Right, and even then, that is a shocking moment.
Yes.
It is, but it's like...
It's also...
I almost want to say jump scare, but obviously without the scare. It's not the shock. They don't try and just make you jump. They actually want to make you react.
Right. And the other thing I want to comment on, the last thing I want to sort of comment on a bit is both the voice work and the music are very good. The voice work in the original Japanese is very good.
Eris isn't so hot.
She's okay. Okay, for the most part, it's very good. I will grant you, Eris is only okay. But like the main cast, they're all really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Lena is voiced by Megumi Hayashibara, who is phenomenal, and she sings the opening theme, and she's great. I love her; she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's just a really well done. It's a really well done. The voice acting is great, and the music's really good. It's atmospheric. It fills in the battle music. I love. I think Gav mentioned at one point, the battle music is Gav's like, this sounds like it should be in a Final Fantasy game. Which it kind of does, and that's actually praise, honestly. The music is not quite Yoko Kanno level, but it's good.
Yeah.
And I love that about the show. So that was but the reason I mentioned the Japanese voice acting is really good is there is a dub of it, of course.
Yep.
This is a early 90s dub, though.
It's less than top.
To be fair, if you look at the names of the dub, there are well-known names.
Oh, yeah, Crispin Freeman shows up in eventually.
In their careers.
Yeah, but it's really early in the career.
Crispin Freeman takes over for the original voice actor for Zelgadis partway through the show. And it was needed because the original voice actor for Zelgadis is not good in the dub.
He was honestly terrible.
And Lisa Ortiz does her damnedest with Lena, and she does a good job. She's honestly the best part of the dub, by and far. But there's just something off about the way the lines are delivered. It's just not quite right.
I think it's because
it's fine, but
at that time it was the whole, matching the lip flaps and all that kind of thing.
Right.
It kind of was. It was that. It was almost an audio, and it wasn't. It wasn't quite there when you just tried to do a direct swap into English.
Yep.
These days, with the editing equipment they can do, they can alter lip flaps these days, and they can make it fit.
Right.
So that sort of limitation doesn't exist. But yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, look, we're living in an age now where I think it's fair to say that depending on who's doing it, have more or less caught up, if not in some cases surpassed the originals.
No, as we said, there are a few shows where the dub is honestly superior. Bebop is one of them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is not one of them, but the dub is. I can't watch the dub because part of it is because I adore the Japanese cast, and some of the dub is just not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I want to get through. We sort of cover some of our final thoughts, but I want to get our actual final thoughts before we wrap up. So Eric, you first, then Gav, then I'll wrap up.
Okay, I like this show a lot. It's a lot of fun. The characters are all great. The animation, like I said before, it's not the bestest I've ever seen from the era, but it definitely holds its own. And yeah, I would definitely recommend watching this show.
Gav?
I'd like. Yeah. Something I should mention is it's very good at turning on a dime from comedic slapstick silliness to serious character moments or drama. And it does so without breaking your neck with tonal whiplash.
Yep. Gav?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I did. It was fun. It made me laugh. I'll be honest with you, it's not overtaken Nadeshiko for me.
Totally fair.
As my favourite comedy, just because, I'll be honest, I'm more of a sci-fi buff anyway. I can watch fantasy. I like fantasy. I do. But I don't know. There's only so many fireballs I can see. But you know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's like I really do like it, and I would watch it again. I mean, I know damn well this is Peter's Gundam. Okay. Sooner or later, I'm going to suggest another Gundam season. This is not the last time you'll be seeing Slayers on this show.
Nope. No, we're going to be doing Slayer Season 2, Slayers next at some point. I guarantee it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. I look forward to that. But, yeah, definitely worth a watch. Absolutely. It's one of those. It's like I say, it's the oldest show we've done now, and it's one of those just like... yeah, just like Yamato, it's one of those. It set a lot of the tropes that you see nowadays.
Yep.
So it's definitely. I mean, God, the number of sound effects I heard out of there that I could place to any number of of anime that followed. Half of Dragon Ball is in there.
Yes.
But yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. Definitely worth your time.
Yeah, and as I've said, this is actually the Slayers series as a whole is my second favorite anime series behind Yamato. I adore this show. It consistently puts a smile on my face when I watch it. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the voice acting. I love the character designs. There's lots of wonderful details in the backgrounds that I think are great. And it's genuinely funny. And I can see why Gav would prefer Nadesico to this as a comedy. I think part of it for me is this was the first anime comedy I watched, so that factors into it.
Which is exactly the same for me with Nadesico.
Right.
Yep.
But I think it also sort of plays into my style of humor a bit also.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, I think Gav can sort of see where as someone who plays a lot of tabletop role-playing games and runs them,
oh yeah,
this show actually influenced my game mastering after.
Yes. Absolutely, I can see that.
The way I work comedy into my games then when I run them is directly influenced by Slayers, honestly. Like, I didn't notice it at first, but looking back at it now, I can see it. And I'm proud of that, honestly, because I adore the show, and I think it's, I like being able to take those comedy beats when I can, because I think they're needed even in serious stories.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Anyways, that is Slayers for this. That's this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Next time, Eric, what is the next show we're doing?
I think we're finally going to do Beyond the Boundary because I kind of want to rewatch that, and you guys need a guilty pleasure of mine.
Okay. Sweet. We'll be doing Beyond the Boundary next. So thank you for watching. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. That way, you'll know when new episodes are coming, and the likes help out my channel a little bit, so please.
Plus, if you leave a comment, chances are I'll respond to it because...
Yeah, Gav and I both respond to comments fairly often on the show, on the episodes.
Yeah. Eric doesn't exist on the internet, so...
Nope.
The internet is there to the internet is there to watch cartoons, play video games, and watch porn.
All right. Anyways, we'll be back next time with Beyond the Boundary. When we record the show, we record on Monday nights on hitbox.tv/mecha-gm. You can also catch the old stuff here. Also, if you really prefer instead of YouTube, please watch on YouTube though. If you want to join us live, we love the live audience. Thank you for being here, everybody.
Yes.
Yes.
If you need to hit me up on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @MechaGM. Gav, people want to hit Gav. I guess Gav's is @SonicGav with a K. Am I correct?
Yes.
And as we said, Eric does not exist on the internet.
It's true. I don't.
He's an enigma, wrapped in a mystery.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for watching and listening, etc. And we'll see you guys next time. Catch you later, everybody.
Bye.